management team. I appreciate you making the time to appear before the Senate for this oversight hearing this afternoon at the request of the Senate. The time now is 1:05 on a Tuesday, February 13, 2024. With that, I will call this oversight hearing to proceed. But before we start, I would like to ask everyone in the room to put your phone on silent mode and for everybody to avoid loud conversation throughout the course of this hearing. I will also ask for everyone on the table who will be speaking or who will be asked to speak to first raise your hand and be recognized by the chair, and also to please use the microphone in front of you. It is the expectation of this committee for everyone making a statement, testimony, or comment to speak truthfully and in a manner that is professional and respectful to others. For the record, I will now introduce the members of the JGA committee and the members of the Senate who are joining us this afternoon. First, I want to introduce our Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Ngirabang, who is to my far left. Then Senator Basilius, who is also a member of the committee. Vice President and member of the committee, Honorable Mayur, and Senator Inabo, who's also a member of the committee, and Senator Cuarte, who is also a member of the committee. With us this afternoon is Honorable Senate President Jocons Paules, who is the President of the Senate, and members of the Senate who are also with us this afternoon, Senator Sangbao, Senator Sungino, Senator Tabalwal, and Senator Talamas. To start off, I will first recognize myself for an opening statement. So, Mr. Levitt, the Senate acknowledged the importance of the role of the Bureau of Public Safety in our government. The function of the Bureau is clear in its mandate to preserve peace and maintain law and order by enforcing all laws of the Republic designed to protect lives, properties, freedom of our citizens, residents, and visitors, including wildlife in our country. Your mandate, the Bureau's mandate, encompasses many areas of responsibilities that demands professionalism, accountability, transparency, respect, and loyalty from every member of the police force. It is not only the public expectations, but the desire of the people to feel safe and secure in their homes and communities. We recognize the task is not small, and it is very challenging. It is definitely not easy for every police officer to sacrifice their lives every day in the line of duty to serve and protect the people. And we want at this time to take this opportunity to thank every member of our police force for their sacrifice every day through hard work and commitments, and also for their loyalty to serve for their homeland. Over the past years, there has been some new developments happening at the Bureau to ensure that the mandates of the bureaus are carried out to meet the expectations of the public. However, some of these developments have brought about concerns from the public, and we are hoping that through this hearing, we will be able to get some update on the progress and, more importantly, your efforts to address these issues, specifically on the management and leadership status of the Bureau, drug trafficking situation, jail incidences, gun control and use of firearms, and police morale in general, among other things. Our emphasis today is to find solutions and potential remedies to the challenges we face and how best to address these challenges as a government. Now, Director Levitt, before we go deeply into these issues, I want to give you a chance to give your opening statement, introduce your people, and perhaps tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you would possess as your strength in terms of skills, expertise, or experience that better equip you to carry out your role as the head of the Bureau. But before I give you the floor, I want to congratulate you for your appointment to this important role as the Director of the Public Safety. I will now give you the floor, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for inviting the Bureau of Public Safety here and with all the chiefs. We have Chief of Division of Criminal Investigations. Then we have Chief Ricky from the Corrections, Chief Jefferson from the Fire. My right hand, my admin, Valerie Sykes. Chief Tim Dick for the Division of Marine Wildlife and Fish and Wildlife. Sorry, law enforcement. And we have Chief Sengenbao for Transnational Crimes Division. All the way up. A little about myself. People want to know why I'm here. None of this is scripted, so my father was police. All my family members joined the military. I joined the military police to make him proud because I was too young to be a police officer. So I decided to go that route. Career progression, promotion, diversity of jobs, and each job was significantly harder than the next, from being a tower guard, patrolman, narc dog handler, bomb dog handler, mine dog handler, military police investigator, supervisor, platoon sergeant, rear deck commander. I've done so many different jobs, which requires management of people. And it's a selfless service. You do it for the benefit of many. So that's one of my skills is I know what it's like to sacrifice your time and family.
Sorry, if you could bring the mic up a little bit closer so it can speak a little louder. Thank you.
Thank you. So my background being within the military, supporting their families, the size of the installations was about the size of Koror. This whole area of about 20 to 30,000 people. Some places even larger with even 200,000 acres of land up in Washington when I was there. I've been on deployments, I've been to war, I know what it's like to take care of others. My main goal was to retire from that and continue my service, which I did with information technology in the government, working networking, cybersecurity, information assurance, customer support, until I became leadership and I retired as a GS-13. And I had all these skills. In between time, I did high threat protection, contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was still young and fit. I ended up opening kennels at home. I was in Germany most of my career. And I didn't move to Texas till a couple years ago. I was doing contracting, small things, security officer for the refugee program, bringing the Afghans when we were closing down that war. And I did what everyone wants to do. You want to retire, you get your truck, you get an RV, and you just head out. I drove all the way to Alaska to finally enjoy life. Well, I was miserable because I like to work. So I heard through friends at Palau, there might be a job opportunity there. A friend of mine said, hey, send me your resume. He sent it out. And I said, what's the deal on that? Because there's so many job offers with my skills. And I ended up getting a phone call from the president, and it was 2 phone calls asking about background, what do I know, and then the second phone call about 2 weeks later, it was more specific about the K-9 program, drug issues, what the questions we're going to address today. And I just gave him my ideas of how we did it in the military. Now, I brought all my SOPs with me. I'm always reviewing them, going over them. Some of them are old. They're still good, but they're standard operating procedures. And I will talk with the chiefs to decide whatever task we're approaching, who they think the best person is. If it's a new task, we'll give other people the opportunity to explore their careers for my succession plan. So we can keep them in mind, keep it fresh, have them exposed to the various aspects of public safety. I like to refer to that as public trust, because without their confidence, we're not going to get information, we're not going to know what's going on, we're not going to get the funding, we're not going to get the backing of the people to work together as a community. I'm not the one solution. I have many ideas, many plans, not all of them are perfect, but it's a collective. I share with the president, I share with my team here, and the Bureau was a mess. Okay, that's why I'm here. I prefer a Palawan. I thought I was signing up as an advisor. I was shocked this first time I met the senator. When I'm signing it, it says director. I go, what did I get into? But the challenge still remained the same regardless of what position I was in. I wanted to be the advisor to go to each section here and give them my expertise, share my knowledge, so I can be useful, pass it on, and help people out. It comes at a sacrifice. I got 6 children at home. 2 of them are special needs. So it's a real challenge here to come here without getting any kind of support from local people. Caveat to that is everywhere I go, people are shaking my hand everywhere, thanking me for coming here to expose the problems we have. And I would like to discuss that with you through the questions that you present to us of how we are going to complete it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Director. I think it's very clear now your background, at least for some members of the Senate. We were not very sure about your background, and I thank you for kind of elaborating on that. And I also thank you for submitting in advance the information about your history of your job and the things that you have done in the past, and also for those information that will supplement our discussion this afternoon on specific items in our agenda. So without further ado, I want to move in right into the main agenda, the topics of our agenda, going to the first part of the agenda, which is really talking about personnel structure of the Bureau of Public Safety. And I appreciate you also sending your response to those questions and those written response. I thought it was very helpful for us to have a better understanding in the written form that you provided. But for the purpose of this hearing, I think maybe we can go through those a little one by one. And I think the first part of the agenda was really to see how are we doing in terms of putting together the personnel structure of the Bureau. I understand that the Bureau, for some time before, it used to be like 3 or 4 bureaus under the Ministry of Justice. And then this administration, sort of when they came in, they basically consolidated all the bureaus and put them under one bureau, which for some people feel that maybe that's a little bit overwhelming for one director to be handling all the different aspects of the public safety under one bureau. Others feel that maybe it's more make work a lot more efficient, but we want to get your thoughts on that, the current structure that we're in, and if there's any plans to improve the structure or recommend changes to the structure that will make work a lot more efficient and more effective, and while at the same time addressing some of those challenges that we face in terms of hiring, recruiting new members, and promoting officers to the key positions like the position of the chiefs, deputy director, and of course the director. I would assume that you're probably not looking to be in this position for a long time, but just to provide support and sort of like transitioning to that point where we can have Palawan citizen to hold this position.
Thank you, Senator, for that important question. Was everyone given the handout of the sheet? The explanation that goes on here, of course, the deputy director position is vacant at the moment. We are currently working with human resources right now to hire that position as soon as possible. I have considered all my chiefs, as I always do. Starting from left to right with the criminal investigations, they handle all the felonies. It's a very good division for me. Anything the Division of Patrol can't handle, because they're trained at the misdemeanor level, the drunk driving, the car accidents. But when something's a felony that requires expert skills, there's a different educational requirement, professionalism, and the timeliness of the reports that they follow through with chain of custody for evidence handling and so forth. My next three are my top three, because without these next three, we wouldn't have any public safety or public trust, which is patrol, fire, and corrections. If we don't have patrol, we can't catch the bad guy. If we don't have a jail to put them in, they're back on the street. And of course, fire, because that saves lives. And they perform approximately 500 ambulatory trips to help Palauans get to the hospital when they're needed. That wasn't originally designed that way, but I included that in our last budget so we can get our vehicles maintenance and fixed. We're working with the Minister of Health and Services so we can get some kind of compensation, because we're helping each other. We're one team here. I'll go over the numbers, which you don't have at this time. This is my nightmare, because it's very hard to fill a position. We've had 19 resignations, and we'll get into the drug trafficking cases and things like that, but because of the drug testing program we've lost a lot of good officers. We didn't just lose good people, we lost all the training that we've invested into them. I don't like losing anybody. So what we did last year is we started a rehab program. So we give them another 6 months of rehab. We test them again to hopefully that they can return to work. The patrol division is very stressed because we have so many external duties, not just from your office, but anyone coming here who wants an escort. They need security, they're having an event. Now, with 2 weeks' notice, I can adjust things. But as the year goes on, I'm running out of funding to put people in that position. Currently, right now, we have approximately 4 people extra just to fill the 3 shifts we have at patrol. So when a person is sick, a person's on leave, and a person's escorting, we have 1 person left over, which is probably doing administration work or they're just off. So that's a really bad rotation. All my percentages for each division is based upon 80. That allows 10%, 1 out of 10 people can call in sick, and 1 out of 10 projected leave, so everyone has a chance throughout the year. Currently, we're below 80%. Some of the other divisions are at 40%, and that's why I want to explain this before I go into my real numbers. So keeping patrol full is where I transfer everyone. If someone's on a drug test or they commit a felony in their weapon, which we'll cover later, it's taken from them, they cannot perform. If they're on medicine, legal medicine, and they can't carry a weapon or operate emergency equipment, we have to put them someplace else. So there's a lot of moving parts here. These 3 divisions here all went to the same police academy. So I might be pulling a fireman, putting him in a police uniform, treating him as a Police 1 trainee again, just because I'm using the resources I have. Recruitment isn't the answer because their base pay might be $13,000, but 3,000 of that is incentive pay, hazard pay. So they're getting just about 10,000 a year to start risking their lives to protect Palau. So we need to adjust that. I think I do every budget. Fire and rescue, they have aging equipment. And the last thing we need is have a house on fire. There's lives at stake, and there's not enough personnel. They're at the bare minimum right now for their shifts. The EMTs are paying for their own classes. I'm working with the hospital to see if they can train, recertify to keep the number of EMTs we have, so both in the ambulance and at the fire scenes, so that the first responders for all our chiefs have someone to take care of the first responder, have to take care of the people at their homes instead of just at the hospital. It's small, but $80 to someone who makes $10,000 a year, it's quite a bit of money. Division of Corrections, we should have a separate meeting on this one. I've been there so many times. I've found drugs myself. We did 2 searches this week, I believe. We keep finding the same things. I have several pictures of the interiors, the broken sinks, the conditions of the people. I want to treat everyone humanely, because if you catch a criminal, you put them in jail, and they're not treated humanely, they're just going to go back to the way it was. The gangster phrase is get rich or die trying. These folks just don't care. They make $7,000 a week trafficking drugs, selling drugs, and if we catch them with just 1 gram, we can only give them the small sentence. I want them to get rehabilitation. There's been a lot of updates for that, getting an infirmary installed at the old jail, which is the current one, including that in the new jail. I built a database. I build a lot of databases for people to make their jobs easier. So we can track by picture, date of birth, sentencing, who's eligible for parole, any adverse actions they may have had while being in there, such as escaping or using drugs, so we can adjust their sentencing so everyone gets punished fairly. So we promote good behavior, the reform programs we have going on. There's a lot that our jail needs. The toilets were broken. I invested a lot of my own money in there just because we didn't have any. It's the end of fiscal year, and what's granted isn't not necessarily what comes in. I have the number of escapes we have, getting the fence fixed, the cameras. There's so many things, and we've received a fraction of that money because all our money's tied up into the new jail. It's worth the investment. It's to have people, religious services are included on the database as well. The Queen likes to visit. She likes to come by on Sundays. She brings a team with her. They talk to people. It's to have everyone the opportunity to get better, to recognize and treat their abuse or treat the psychological behavior that we have. We have a big program on that should be a separate topic for that. Division of Transnational Crimes, that's a monster, because they have to handle the crime that's going on here now, and the crime is the meth. And if trends follow, after the expensive meth becomes cheap, then fentanyl comes in. And I have different reports in front of me to show that the relationship of the drugs coming in, the property crimes, the assaults. And so my main focus right now is the Transnational Crime Division and the Anti-Human Trafficking Division. We went from Tier 2 watch list to Tier 2. I was working with FSM on the Interpol relationship for sharing information. We go to the Pacific Island Chiefs of Police meetings. We share information. We try and determine how to better ourselves in our processes, working with immigration, customs, BPS, working with different countries. But we could make Tier 1, in my opinion, if we increase our surveillance and investigation time. We don't want to do the buy and bust. Buy and bust is, I've got $500 petty cash, I find a guy, he buys the drugs from me, I arrest him. We want the big guys. Luckily, we're on an island, so there's 3 ways of coming in here: plane, mail, or boat. We've had some upgrades at the DMLE to monitor boats coming and going, which saves us time from constantly surveilling point to point going around the island. It's pointless to go at 30 knots chasing a boat that's 35. They're on the other side. So there's always a plan, but I go where I can spend money to be the most effective. I cannot forget the Division of Juvenile Justice. They're currently at 40% because my priorities are the big three, the police, fire, and corrections for now, because I have limited funds. But if we don't educate the children and get out there and tell them these are the dangers of following this behavior, of doing drugs or abusing alcohol or vaping, then you're not going to break the chain, okay? And the last one is Division of Maritime Law Enforcement, Fish and Wildlife. I've briefed the president for about 2 minutes. It was me taking advantage of him. This is what I have a plan, and he wants to see it. I'm designing it up on paper. I have a problem, not with our chiefs, he's doing a great job, is like the Fish and Wildlife, for instance. All the divisions up until that point are protecting the people. Yes, they depend on food and fishing, but I think that could be handled by someone else. This is their SOP, and this is the rest of the divisions. It's a lot to handle, and I think more emphasis needs to be put in on Fish and Wildlife by updating all their rules and regulations, increasing the fines, following who is doing what. But right now, all my resources are devoted to getting the public trust and making the people safe. If I'm speaking too much, please. I take questions at any time. So, for me to summarize just the organization, I have not changed any rules or regulations. This was established before me, Executive Order 462. I enforce what's put in front of me. Lawmakers are in front of me right now. And I stress to everyone, we do not choose what to enforce. We enforce the law. I don't have many friends because of this, because there's a right and there's a wrong. This stays the same for now until the lawmakers make a change. I have recommendations. The Bureau of Public Safety rules and regulations as well, it's well established through my vice president. That's all I have done. If people think I am not following the law or doing enough, I do everything 100%. I may not get things to them as quickly as possible because I need to review any changes, any rules or processes that we do just to make sure we're compliant. I haven't been here a year, so I cannot give you a full answer on how things should be. I'm only evaluating. I'd said 30, 60, 90. It's been over 90 days. While I was gone, Senator Baulis, you asked me to look into jails, corrections. I was doing that as well, talking to my friends to see what help we can get, and I think there are some possibilities. Let's talk about the percents. If you have no questions about why the divisions are the way they are, it was in front of me, and this is what I adjust to. So 1, 2, 3, I go into the standard operating procedures. This is not law, it's a standard, which means when a police arrives at a traffic scene or a misdemeanor assault, they get to a certain point, the reporting procedures, the uniform, the appearance, then it gets turned over to CID. So it's not 100%, none of this is, but it gives anyone who wants to be a police officer a chance to understand what we do. And each one of these SOPs is about us contacting the next. So each chief will report to the next chief, not necessarily through me, but in cooperation. And my goal is to reduce our manpower, reduce our resources needed. Instead of having 3 different divisions, they do all the work, they pass it on to the next, they do all the work, and they double check to go to another division. So it all starts at the radio call at the station that they have to respond, secure the scene, protect everything until the professionals get there, like with our FPA focal point, for instance. So back to our numbers. Right now, our Division of Corrections is 64%. We have 11 authorized. I think I said CID. Oh, sorry. Usually I say CID, that's what we have in the military. So the Division of Criminal Investigations, they're at 64%. We have 7 real good investigators there. Their challenge is, by regulation, they can only have up to 5 cases every 3 months, 90 days. It's limitations we set on ourselves so they don't overwork themselves. They're beyond that already. We're supposed to have 11. The Division of Fire and Rescue, they're at 76%. And remember my 80% limit. No more training, no more going, no more vacation leave. We have to be there. We don't want to show up at a fire with 2 trucks and 4 people. We just can't get it done. Division of Patrol, now they're at 89% because I'm allowing 9% of the folks per month to actually take leave, get married, have holiday. So everyone's at their bare minimum. And I took these high numbers from other personnel, 4 from criminal investigations, 2 from the fire, 4 from corrections. I have to move people back and forth to make sure they're at operating numbers. Corrections, we're in the same issue here. They're at 79%. They're 18 of 24. So forth, so on. The main thing is we're not receiving enough money for the salaries. Sure, we're paying for the people that are working, but when I advertise and no one's applied in over 2 months to any position that we have, they're not going to sign up when they can make $4.50 an hour across the street when we're offering them $3.50 an hour, but hey, you'll get your PGST back next year. These are first responders. No one's going to risk their lives when they can not risk their lives putting stuff in bags at WCDC. So if anything, we need to increase their pay to a minimum of 8.1. Right now it's at 7.1 starting pay, which is $10,000. That $1,000 more will get a more incentive for people to choose a career field in police work, law enforcement. That's my belief. I present it in front of you, and hopefully we can spend more time discussing this problem. Myself, I'm losing over $100,000 a year being here. I have a big background. I have many things I've done. I did not go in any detail. But if you increase that, of course, everyone will get an increase, but they deserve it. They're out there. They're working hard hours. They're working weekends and holidays. So do I have any questions about the current org chart? Or please excuse me, Valerie, do you have anything to add?
I recognize Vice Chair Gibbs.
Chair. Oh, thank you, Chairman. Director, you mentioned that the starting salary is $3.50 an hour. I thought all government pays now at $5.
Minimum. I'm going over all the data I have. I don't have the new data as of yet. During my time I was gone, there is also professional development and a succession plan. You might have noticed that we had 3, 4 different acting directors. Per regulation, they do the same thing as me, but there's a little bit of information loss in between the handoffs. So with the current estimates of how often they work, taking time off, I always use the minimum wage. It's up to me to speak with HR on comparing at least annually that their pay is equivalent to the inflation. Thank you.
Well, if I may correct you, Director, I think the minimum pay for the police officer 1, I think is a lot higher as compared to other civil service posts. As I understand, there is a classification, job classification for police officers, and they're starting, I believe, in pay level around 7 or 8. Yeah, so it should be significant. Although I still feel that we need to make improvement for the salary to make it more attractive and commensurate with the level of risk and difficulty of work. So with that said, and thank you for kind of giving us a quick overview of the Bureau and all the challenges facing the different divisions. I understand these are not new problems, but sort of like recurring problems over the years. And I think the main reason it's been kind of like this for a bit for some time is because there hasn't been really a thorough assessment of what needs to be done in terms of improving our recruitment of police officers, and to also provide incentives that will retain the officers to stay on their job, and also to be more loyal and more committed to the work that they're doing. I understand the area of compensation needs to be worked on, and I'm glad you are noticing that as a part of the problem. And I'm hoping that you're in consultation with the President for whatever plan that you put for the President to consider. And of course, the Congress is just waiting for the executive branch, especially the President's office and the Bureau, to sit down and put up the plan for the Congress to consider as far as the need for the budget is concerned. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Senator, for your comments and suggestions. All I have is suggestions. I can give you them all day long. Incentive programs, I pay for that myself at the moment, and these are the crime charts. And it shows, since I gave the Top Cop Award, if you're familiar with that, the police officer who's the most professional, shows up for work, has no disciplinary issues or adverse actions. I don't choose them. He's chosen amongst, or she is chosen amongst their peers. And yes, I've been funding it to show that it will work. We went from 18% to 52% increase in citations just per quarter, just because of this program. And I hope this year you give me the money for that so I don't have to pay for it. But the other incentive programs are within the Bureau itself. Maybe government employees. I've spoken with various folks. Bringing my government experience from America, we pay 5% a year. That's 5% of our annual salary. At the end of the year, there's a pool of money, and because there's a heavy emphasis on evaluations, and there's a scoring matrix done among supervisors. They bring up to their directors saying, these are my top 5 performers. We do that per division, and from there, the top 5% of the money is given to those personnel. It's maybe $150 a person per year, but at the end of year, we're giving out $2,000 or $3,000 bonuses because they were the top performer. So it may not work in the first quarter of the year, but definitely the third quarter, people are working harder because they know that there's an incentive award at the end of year. It really doesn't cost anyone money. It's almost like the lottery. You put in $1 and you get $20 back. So I have different incentives for the police force as well. You asked me about the succession plans, about the chiefs. Not going to mention his age, but he's got about 12 years left. So I don't have a plan that goes that far out. They're fairly young compared to my age. So in the States, we offer, even in the military, we offer 15, 20, 25-year retirements because your body takes a toll. They may not be as active anymore. They might be driving the truck instead of pulling the fire hose. But it gives them the incentive to go enjoy life instead of waiting till you're 60 and finally making it. So there are different incentive programs. I have a lot. I share a lot of this with my vice president. She's my supervisor. And different ideas that I have, and it's the amount of dialogue that we need from you and from within ourselves to see what is the best route. Thank you.
Any questions?
Sula, Chair. Director, thank you for that overview. I did notice you mentioned you only had 40% staffing on CID. Was it 40% or 50%? It was really low compared to the others that were in the 80s and 89. So I guess my question is, so what is your plan for that with your challenges with hiring and their caseload and so forth? Do you have a plan?
There's always a plan. Plan A and Plan B is come up with Plan B. So the one I was talking about, Senator, was the Division of Juvenile Justice. Because my priorities were the first three. They were at 70% at one time, and we've been recruiting a long time now. When we do get our numbers, I want 80% in the divisions and then the investigators and so forth until we have enough to fill other positions or even thoughts or ideas for surveillance, for more things that we can provide for the community.
Yeah, I understand the importance of juvenile justice, but what was CID at again, if you could refresh my memory? I thought it was pretty low as well.
Senator, currently they're at 64%.
There's a lot of work that goes in before CID takes over, and I'm just concerned that that's a big gap that really needs to be addressed in the short term. Thank you.
I'll recognize Senator Inabo.
Director Levitt, thank you for coming to Palau and helping us. We know that you're sacrificing some of it. You just mentioned that you're taking a pay cut, then we appreciate your time here. My question is, you've been saying that you have a staffing level is low, and the qualifications of some of the staff has been affected because of the drug testing. We have a bill in the Senate now that changing the 6 months testing period. So if you test positive now, you can go to a rehab program for 6 months, and then if you test positive again, then disciplinary action maybe. But if you test negative, you may come back to work. So what is your recommendation on that? Do you want to keep the 6 months because of the issues with the retention of qualified officers? What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That's a great question. I already said there's a right and a wrong. You enforce the law and you break the law. That does not mean I lock people up automatically. When you test someone under the old current program, they are tested once. We bring them back in. We test them a second time. After the second confirmation, because it could have been a false positive, if they test negative, we let them go. We keep an eye on them. If they're positive, we put them in a Minister of Justice approved rehab program. I'd like to allow people the opportunity to get better. Some people may not know they have a problem or an addiction. They might have psychological problems. We give them the chance to recuperate. That's why there's programs out there. We just don't cast them away. Under the proposed draft I saw last year, you didn't have it broken down between marijuana, amphetamines, methamphetamines. You just had drug. So you could actually adverse action them at the second time and let them go. So it's a decision call. Is the law too tough or too easy? I highly recommend that any drugs such as amphetamines or methamphetamines, heroin or cocaine, let them go, because these are law enforcement officers who took a sworn oath. They broke the oath. If you don't have integrity, honesty, okay, you shouldn't be working with us, period. You need to have the courage to come up and stand up for what is right. But if you're breaking the law, bringing drugs into a jail, looking the other way, if you work customs and the mule walks by with all the drugs and you're getting paid, people do it for different reasons. I want to stop all that corruption. I agree with the 6-month rehab now, the way it currently is, but I firmly believe that if you're tested twice and you're on methamphetamines, you should be gone. I just want the opportunity of someone saying, hey, I have a problem, please help, and not to fire them for coming forward. Take their weapon, take away the emergency equipment to make them in a safe environment and go from there versus just firing someone for maybe a mistake. Thank you.
Director, that brings up another question. So you're saying that if an officer have problems and with drugs, they can come forward to you and tell you I have a problem with drugs, and then that means you're not testing them, so you can give them an opportunity for a rehabilitation program. Should I put that in the law, or how does that work? I don't understand that part.
If anyone, because we communicate with our subordinates, with employees, the supervisor, all the way up, if someone reports to the supervisor they need help, we get them help, okay? That's always an option, especially if they're suicidal or have debt problems, alcohol abuse, drug problems. It's a complicated issue, but I don't think behavioral health is being used enough. We have fatigue. We have people that are overworking, people with money problems. They turn to the alternative cheap drugs instead of getting help. And if someone comes forward and they want to get better, we've had 5 personnel out of 7 on a rehab program that are doing good or doing much better. One person who I wanted to terminate immediately, I'm told he's a stellar performer now. They're still in the rehab program. So we can't change the law to make it one way or no way. So it just, we need to talk about it some more so it could be more explained of what my purpose is. Anyone that seeks help should receive help and not just cut off. Thank you.
Okay, we're just concerned because we don't have many rehab programs here in Palau, and sometimes we don't have the professional help, professionals who can help people with psychological problems or, just behavioral problems. So I hope you have some kind of program that helps the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Actually, it was Sergeant Umayam who sent me an email this morning about the work she's doing with the Ministry of Health. It's not just our division that's looking for money and support. They also have the behavioral health, would you like to speak, Umayam? She's working on a program. It's currently in draft that we're going to receive help through the hospital. This also ties in with us at the corrections facility building an infirmary where patients can be treated on scene for acute problems, from Band-Aids to aspirin to actually getting medication that the social worker, psychologist, therapist can actually come to the jail and have a safe environment to provide it there at the jail. So we are working on that right now, and we're just pending funding either to them or to us to support the program.
Militasil se senators. Sele tialolgoringi director el altime pure public safety nga kama chief ngirage tra division of correction material mlo positive atigal mlo positive results certir ngaringi rehab program der ngaringi el angal through behavioral health o sisil time director of public health director of public safety mlakad adu ulgire la Kora renovation ra alsela division of correction alwal kora mo station ra tiragi del health professionals ra kora wa behavioral health el mo si ilmesoyis veruk mo address agel tora wa substance abuse ma chronic disease mang el alta magi yaurir el al kamantra other hospital el barulay gagi del programs el kirir kalbus ma tigal bulis el tiramlo positive ra drugs.
We kind of moved to the next item on the agenda, but before we go deeply into the drug trafficking issue, is there any more questions related to the structuring of the personnel and administration? Yeah. Okay, Dr. Corte.
Thank you, Chair. Director Leviter, thank you very much for the things that you've said so far. I'm impressed with the sacrifice that you have done. But I have a kind of a bigger picture issue because I cannot in my mind put into place. So there are two issues, and if I may ask the first question. I'm looking at the current BPS structure, and then there's the Minister of Justice, who's actually elected by the people independently. And then your role as a director is basically duplicating the same function. So I'm asking you, is there a role for a Minister of Justice? Or should she or he just be the manager for NEMO? Just their opinion.
Like I said before, Senator, Executive Order 462 existed before I got here. I support this until something else is presented to me. Everyone here has oversight. She oversees what I'm doing, and I oversee what they're doing. So if you do have a plan, make sure there's some kind of oversight for the next person. I don't think anyone should be able to rule one section, one minister, without having the rank structure in place.
No, I clearly understand. I think by law, the reason why you have a very special directorship, not like the director of public health or any other director in the government, is because you have guns. And so any other organization structure that could actually lead to issues if the president should decide. So I'm asking you your opinion. I'm not talking about the executive order. You are actually over there trying to solve issues. What is your thoughts about your role as the Director of Public Safety and the role of the Minister of Justice? Because I'm looking at the organization chart, and what you've just said is basically the role of the minister. So I'm just asking your thoughts independent of the executive order. Apparently these are law-making people. It might be a good idea to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Senator. Without understanding the structure of the Minister of Finance and so forth, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad idea. I just disagree with your mentioning of the guns, because that program, 17 PNC, Section 4507, we have strict requirements for that, finishing the academy, taking the sworn oath, background checks, so forth. There is a vetting process to that. And we don't just issue guns to the BPS, we issue it to other personnel as well. It's a statute, and it comes through our office. It's requested through our office. We look at it and we verify it to even ensure that they're qualified on their weapons. But as far as who should be running the BPS, it should be someone who's of very high standards, who will enforce the law no matter what, and is not in a political position to be manipulated by current events. It should be, this is their job every day to manage the bureau. It's too much for my supervisor to run the whole division. It's too much for me sometimes. Having the director missing from the Division of Marine Wildlife, it's a burden on me to know everything that's going on there and their requirements. So perhaps a restructure is possible, but before we implement something, let's take a look at the pros and cons of moving forward in that direction. So more dialogue is going to be needed, more information gathering, which you will be provided. We have metrics being revamped right now to show what your requirements are. Each division is, we have JICA volunteers here now that are helping us with that data collection. Thank you.
Thank you for those. Yes, maybe I stand to be corrected, but the Director of Public Safety is treated differently than any other director within the government. Secondly, Director, I don't mean to mean I did do my homework and I really tried very hard. And didn't click to me until you said this statement about police officers. They have to have integrity and honesty. I appreciate that very much. The first minimum criteria for you for the position of Director of Public Safety is you have to be have received a BS degree from an accredited college or university. When you send your curriculum vitae, it's impressive, and you also got a Bachelor of Science in Business Management from Almeida University. And for the life of me, I tried very hard, and the only Almeida University that I found is a unaccredited for-profit online university that is registered in the island of Nevis in the Caribbean, and the mailing address is in somewhere in Iowa. I'm not saying that's where you went. I'm just saying that the statement about integrity and honesty is important to me. Thank you.
I give the floor to Senator Sangbaw.
Chair, thank you. I'm not a member of the committee, but I do have some questions regarding the structure before we move on, so if I may. Thank you, Director. Is it Levitre or Levit? Can you pronounce that correctly? Or at least, yeah.
Either was fine. Everyone says it wrong, so Levit is fine.
Levitre. Okay. Thank you, Levitre. According to organizational chart, is the Minister of Justice your immediate supervisor?
Yes, it is, Senator.
In your statements this afternoon, you've been talking directly to the President.
As I stated, Senator, he was in my office for a different reason. We were working out an issue about parolees, because we don't have a parole officer. And I said, I pointed at the chart saying, can I present a plan to you that might reorganize this, that you can go over? He said, sure, let me see what you got. But
Yeah, I
we
think
did
your
not
previous
discuss it.
statement, when you said you applied, you mentioned that then the President called you.
No, he did not call me.
Or, well, you, I would hate to go and rewind the tape. You said that you talked to the President personally. Twice.
For the interview.
For the interview.
interview,
Why
right.
wouldn't your immediate supervisor conduct the interview? Why would the President of the Republic of Palau?
I don't know. I was
And
not.
I think that that is the question that we're trying to figure out as a members of the Senate, is we're trying to figure out how best that we can hire this director, because it's very different than the other directors that are hired by the Republic of Palau. So this is part of asking these questions to ensure that we, and when you mentioned that you don't want the director to be politically, I guess, influenced, you're a political hire, aren't you? You didn't go through the vetting process of the Bureau of Public Service personnel. The President can hire you and fire you. Isn't that right?
Yes, Senator. He can
Yes.
fire me.
So
at
that
any
is a
time.
political hire, as defined by the Bureau of Personnel Office. And dinasokan mo, Chair, the actual organizational chart. I do have some other questions, but I would reserve my time. Masilabura, appropriate part of the agenda, if I may ask. Also, he mentioned it, the incentive program. I would like to hear more about the rewarding and how those police officers actually gain points by issuing tickets. That'll be interesting. It's a new one for Palau. Certainly want to hear from the director himself about that. Thank you, Chair, and I'll lead back.
Any more questions on the personnel? Senate President?
Good afternoon to you, Director Levitre. Thank you for coming and then answer some question that concern the people of Palau and the whole republic here. I'm looking at the chart and you have a 7 chief in the chart. Are these 7 chief, is your observation for a very short time you're here, are they qualified to this position? So instead of switching them, you keep them on this position?
Senator, thank you. I have not switched anyone since I've been here. The only switching I've done is when I first arrived, they all had different jobs. The fire chief was working over as patrol. It was all changed for professional development. When I got here, there was no on-the-job training, no OJT training for them to learn their positions. After studying in the first month of my position, I realized the fire chief, which is Chief Fabian, he's not here, he wasn't qualified to be a fire marshal. You have to be trained to be in these positions. I'm all about supervisors learning from one another, but everyone is in the original positions since it was designed. So last year, before May last year, they were switched around for professional development, and I asked the vice president, can you please change them back, because they're professionals, they've got years of experience. But I do not have any plans of moving them from one to another or creating a new division, a new director position, and so forth.
So after you've been switching them around, are they finally back to where they are because you feel they're qualified?
There's, excuse me for saying this, there's Palau qualified, and then there's state qualified. In America, our stats, our statistics, our numbers, this is a weekend in San Antonio. This is a year in Palau. So there's a different means, different resources, a different qualification to fight a borderless state such as Texas. They've got 3,000 miles to secure.
So give me the qualification you feel they are qualified now. What kind of qualification you put them back to their being a chief of their different division?
Well, that was, we provided the SOPs to all of you, and it explains the qualifications that are in there. And to further is HR has position descriptions of the qualifications needed for that position.
Have you had time to train them into what they're in today?
I believe everyone knows I've been in their office. I spend much of my time sharing my knowledge with them because I believe a Palauan should be doing my job. I was not, during my interview, I didn't know if it was a political position. I was just an interview. I ended up where I'm in because that's where the president wanted me to be, and I said, I'll take the time and train them up on how I am used to it, my knowledge and years, and they can use what they can.
So your knowledge, you feel they are qualified to this position, so later days, months, you don't have to switch them back again?
No, no, Senator.
You're comfortable with that?
I think we need to spend more time on leadership development. I think we need to show them from the P1 level, from patrol, all the way up to lieutenant, what they need to do for career progression. I transfer people from different divisions as needed. We need 4 lieutenants, 3 sergeants, and 6 P1s at the jail so we can maintain responsibility at the various levels. 1 checks locks, one checks logbooks, 1 searches food. There's a requirement in each division for that, and I try to match them for that. And when someone gets promoted, I see if there's an opening for them to grow in.
So these 7 chiefs, your observation to them, none of them can be qualified to take that position you have now?
The director position, Senator.
The director position. None of them.
I have been cataloging my work, what I do every day. I share it. If any of them are willing to step up, I'll gladly hand it over. I'll do it tomorrow if you like, and I'll show them how to do the job. However, like the senator mentioned, it's a politically appointed position. They have CS positions right now. It's a guaranteed job all the way up through election. But as of November, if there's a new president, they could get rid of my position.
Would you mind to find one of these 7 chiefs to be the director if you feel that he is capable, and then step aside and train him to be director, so after 1 year or 2, when you leave, somebody can take over that position as a director?
Yes, that's always been my plan, to find someone, not even just the chiefs. The chiefs, like I said, I'm not speaking on their behalf, but they're not going to give up their current job for my job until November, when it could be replaced by the new president. That's the political appointment I'm wishing to avoid. But there are other lieutenants out there who don't mind the professional experience. We've had 3 other personnel that stepped up and did the job for 2 weeks to 4 weeks at a time, learning what the responsibilities are to see if that is their career progression. If any one of them want to step up and take it now, I will gladly hand it over and be the advisor for each and every one of them, not only just the director.
I think nobody will be willing to that position unless he is appointed, or, because they are serving as a direction of your directorship or with the president. My concern is if you decided to leave next month, the position will be open and nobody have been trained to be the director. That's only my concern, because, we like you to be here to help. It's only that if you decided to leave because of some like medical check-up or some personal problem in the United States, so you decided I'm leaving, that's we're going to face the same situation where we're facing when you left. That's our concern. But we thank you for coming and help us. These chiefs, are they have the same salary as a chief, or they have a different salary based on their qualification, or based on the different category of the division?
We call it time in service, how many years in grade. So if someone was in 11 grade position 7 and they get promoted to a 12, because of the way the pay scale works, we match them to the next higher level to their pay plus a percent. The oldest one here has, he's coming up to retirement. So based upon that, because of the step 1, 2, 3, the years it takes to get to his level, they make more money the longer they stay in. So the younger ones don't make as much, but it's not a base salary across the board.
So it's based on the length of time you work, it's just based on a degree.
Will halak answer. Coming. Our trical chiefs kakaro sa years ral sis pra drual mang sila lol kotol mo bulis and base tragedi del rakatir o dudi na malamyak kal mo mang kakaro sa Abrigit tala ko tol kamang tal nga bla bulis tamdi ma chef mal nga ba dudi ma sangabaw ma fave. They all have different levels of pay, but they are at the chief's level of pay. Tanga 14 almo. Say a requirement there's a class guy. Each chief needs to be at 14, but you have to look at the experience and how long they've been there, and that brings their pay up to the level that they're at now.
Di kaktiogel ang agari ka wasil alangari nga tubdra school mel malangar pa schoolel ding less experience ang aududela morio
Ang hindi mo yun
sen tele la rating ra sila bla police will I say
not public safety per se, HR. The other HR will be the one to name or place them on the level that they should be based on their education and the experience that they came in with. Malso ko mga baskule lemlel dira ka talo ra bla bulis ang talgiban nga mora 14 and then ngomo ra ko to step. Hindi ka lang lakar tira ka.
Okay. Director, we always talk about the salary, and I know you feel that the salary of the police are not enough to for their intensity of their work. Can you make a pay scale while you're here so we will know what level of the police force have to have high salary on what? Because we if you can do that, then send it to us so we will know. So we don't. Our only position is to, if you submit it, give it to your boss. Which one is your vice president or president? Send it to one of them, so they'll send it to us, so we will know how to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Levitt. In the earlier presentation, you said that you had issues in recruiting new officers because of the wage. But the director before you, they were trying to recruit, but they said nobody applies. But those who applies, most of them had the record had some cases, so they had to go through the court or to make them eligible to apply. Do you still facing those issues or not?
Thank you, Senator. The hiring process, there's rules to follow. I follow them. If someone has something derogatory in their background, breaking and entering, theft, domestic violence, child abuse, there's certain criteria that we just do not hire for. If you're requesting a review of those requirements, we can gladly go over that and discuss it with human resources. But as far as I'm dealing with is we have a small population here. To be a Palauan citizen and apply for this position, we have such a small pool of resources to get. A lot of people, they already from high school to college, they have a career plan already. And working at a P1 level or entry level for $427 every 2 weeks, I find that very difficult. I'm a big guy. I spend more a week on lunch than these guys get in 2 weeks. They have gas money, food money, might be on a different side of the island, and you're asking them to come to work to possibly risk your lives. You never know when you say goodbye to your family going to work. So they should be compensated for that, but within limits of other jobs that are within the area. And yeah, 8-1. The 8-1 pay scale is only $1,000 more, and it's around $1,000 more. It's $11,875. But that's the total pay for the year. They're excited when they get their tax money back, but to retain people like that when their brothers and friends, some turn to drugs, are making $7,000 a week. We want to deter all that stuff. My biggest issue isn't just the entry level, because the people that are in 8-1 now that went up the ranks of 7-1, 7-2, so forth. And now all the new P1s are that level. So we need to look at it across the board so that everyone gets equal pay for their time. It'll be a little less pay raise for people that have been around a while, but it'll be a significant increase so there's no temptation of a new police officer to turn to drugs. We have a recruitment problem, yes. 19 people resigned, but not one of them put in there, I did drugs, that's why I'm leaving. So we cannot tie our abuse, or drug abuse, drug testing program to that. It's also the economy. We lose 50% to Guam when they go to the police academy. They go there, they see the nightlife, they have a great time, and they're spending their money, and there's a difference between cultures on both islands. So we want to make it enough to help them stay here and have their families, and to be employed and be successful. Thank you.
Do police officers, when they join, do they have other benefits like night differential, or are those included when you apply? Are those included that you're getting also other benefits, not just the minimum wage or entry level?
Yes, Senator, there is. There's night differential pay, overtime. There's three other aspects that they can get it if they work during the nighttime as well. The problem I have for the hiring process is it'll say 13 to 15,000, but that's already including that pay. If they are only working 40 hours a week, not night shift, it's not going to be at that pay. They don't get all the incentives for that. So for me, that's being a little dishonest to what your starting pay is. That should be your base salary. They should plan their lives and futures on that, supporting a family with children, instead of, well, you didn't work enough night shift. There are different pay scales, so it all should be just one. And the three main divisions I talked about, the fire, the police, and patrol, they all go through the same academy, and they can do the other person's job because everyone's a trainee when they return. The other divisions with investigations, those are seasoned officers who've made 8, 9, 10, 11 grade increases, not step increases. So it's something we need to look out to make sure that they have enough food on their plate after they finish work. Thank you.
What about the hazardous pay? Is that they get hazardous pay when they face hazardous activity, or they get the hazardous pay when they clock in?
All the employees that we have, it's based upon a 40-hour work week, Senator. When they clock in, thank you.
So the hazardous pay including that in their pay. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
the minimum wage plus hazardous pay. But night differential is only when they working during the night. Good. Thank you.
Director, thank you for responding to your reply to the questions. Before we get into the next item on the agenda, I just want to say that we welcome your recommendations as far as improving our police job classification plan. I had some experiencing working with the job classification for the government. And I understand it's been a while since we reclassify the position of the police. So I will welcome any recommendation from you. And also not only on the personnel compensation system, but also for the recommendation as to how best we can restructure the Bureau itself to make it more effective in their delivery of their mandates. I understand the law gives the authority for the president to appoint the director, and I think that's that same law that allows for the president to appoint the director was done way back, and that was the time when the police force was still much smaller, and there were not a lot of issues involving the politics and the work of the police. So I think it's about time to kind of explore that again and see how what would be the best structure. I understand in some countries they have a police commission that supervise the role of the police. And some countries, you know, the president appoints and they get confirmation from the Congress. So those kind of structure, I think we need to explore what would be best fit for Palau in the coming years. So with that said, I want to move on to the next item, which is drug trafficking situation in Palau. I think we touched a little bit on this. One of the biggest concerns that we have is when the results for the testing of the officers who came out, some of them came out positive. That really brought a concern for the members of the Senate, basically because we feel that when there's a growing trafficking of drugs in activities in going on in Palau. Sometimes, the drug traffickers, they would target officials, including the police and people in power or with authority, just so that they can easily traffic their products. At the same time, they're also trafficking young people, the most vulnerable part of our population, who are sometimes uneducated to understand the impact of drugs. And so when this kind of indicator starts showing up, especially with the police showing positive results, it becomes a concern. And then with that, we want to see if that's something that is of a higher priority for you as a new director, and if so, what kind of effort are we doing to really combat this issue of drugs in Palau?
Thank you, Senator. One of the reasons why I came here is because I don't need to read notes. One of the reasons I came here is because I have a vast canine experience. Patrol dogs, bomb dogs, narc dogs, mine dogs, explosive dogs. I even had my own kennels at one time. So part of me being here was to help the canine program. I think we're familiar with the implementation of it during that time. People just weren't trained. It was given to Palau, but Palau wasn't prepared to have the right people in charge of the program. The veterinary care, all the requirements, the training, and so forth. So while I was learning my job and the structure and how everything works, evaluating the way business runs here, well, I knew there was corruption. Corruption's everywhere. But when it comes to drugs, I know how efficient the canine program is. We have a certified, trained kennel master, dog handler right now that's in the schools assisting with the DJJ. And the schools keep asking for that dog to come back because we're doing prevention. We're doing detection. So we're keeping the drugs out of schools while we educate the young kids there. There are other things I am working with because of different divisions, different ministers, such as the airport. Dogs working outside, dogs working inside. I'm letting the Customs and Border Management personnel use 3 of our dogs because we're still waiting for funding, schooling, recruiting, 1, 2, 3, to get people on those dogs. Just that presence gives a psychological and physiological deterrence to criminal activity. You can run behind a tree from a bullet, but you can't run behind a tree from a dog. You can throw things out of your car, the dog will find it in the grass. So it helps in apprehension and evidence collection. There's a big piece to that. So the drug trafficking is your question, Senator. However, the question about the drug testing is to make sure that the people working the jail aren't giving it to the prisoners. We've tested the prisoners as well. 46 were tested. On my last reporting numbers, 18 came up positive. So understanding where the drugs are coming from, how they're getting them, it's from the police officer all the way down to the inmate. We're constantly looking at that with surveillance and detection works. Us policing our own at only 10% people per month means we're donating 120% of the year for the 12 months. Some people go twice. I am not in this process. I don't want to know whose name's on the list. Only one person has that list, and we'll know the day of announcement when your phone rings in the morning or evening, or you need to donate now. I want to keep it anonymous so we don't present an opportunity for someone to avoid, put in for vacation, bring urine in from their spouse and another cup. There's a process that we're doing to police within ourselves, and I'm encouraging it with Customs, Immigration, Rangers, Marshals to do the same thing, to make sure that the people going to work are honest people and not taking bribes or taking drugs. But Kenny, would you like to add to your drug trafficking? Thank you.
Tasil se Senator Saroy. Tagiri nombre kalman lakman din kusa di elallir, for example, January ma February. Through your other customs with the collaboration with other customs. In Singapore, we were saying na chance sa trend ra importation of drugs may below namo di atas sina el alta ma sinda igal drugs bilang mar airport tama di atas sina carrier italo mandek pas sinda ka donguri dengan airport to melu rarat lu melu gagi de laket sar adim so isu di effort se lo na director la sing tos pa kay nine ang arsegi de deterrence ok kalmo to mese through ra profiling gagi da sabab lo pe hindi apna tabi frame las ka sing le ask me same thing la se please help from the ongure the other customs ila talo mo mo se carrier mer bela ndia adam tang unless ngani intel mer kamam la se lagi der ada la rocks sulang
Chief Sulal til update ngwara a level of collaboration kami labanggal customs in terms of protecting our border and screening all the incoming cargos and
yimal full so pula sang 100% tingam kay selo yor ling everyday nganya adra police na ra to the customs airport every flight sida tilu la sing yimal makloro now and then it reflects king are say mga operation rablu magidir all spare team help program mari ke bebira sektor na chel tidiral me help pamal sektor na chel agi mal not only in border mari tidiral expand me help pamra police sulang
Director, the K9 program that you incorporate couple years back, I think, is that working only for the Bureau of Public Safety, or is that in collaboration with the customs?
Thank you, Senator. The problem is we all support Bureau of Public Safety. Customs has border control, different rules, different regulations, different networking that they can do amongst Ministry of Finance. They have a different rule. There is no K9 program that I can look up under PNC. So I use the standard that we use in America, brought it here, put it on paper, but I went through the regular certification standards that I did for 20 years. There's not enough joint effort to have one standard here in Palau yet. So we have a full-fledged kennels with air conditioning, a place for light animal care, food storage. I don't believe Customs has that, so they need funding for that. Or we need a larger facility. But when you talk about accountability, responsibility, Lieutenant Annalisa, she's in charge of the kennels, period. I trained her how to be a kennel master, how to look for things. If something goes wrong, it's her head I'm after. She's going to treat everyone else out there. The memorandum of understanding we have with Customs is to follow our rules until there's some rule. These are our internal rules: when to feed, how to clean, veterinary care, health of the dog. We all have oversight from each other that work with inside there. There is no rule in Palau about how large a drug needs to be for training. What are the storage requirements? We would love to have explosives for our explosive dogs. We have the synthetics, which you can use for certification, but there's nothing better than the real thing. I used to have 72 landmines I would train. The ones that fit in your pocket or on your body, you take them out, you plant them, let them sit for 3 weeks, but we're not using the real things. We still have to weigh them, scale them, put them in the safe at night, 100% control, because we don't want that to be exposed to the public. We don't want any of the dogs to be exposed to methamphetamine, cocaine, if some powder came out of a container. So there are a lot of requirements for reasons. But as of now, it's just our policy. I have the SOP in front of us right now. But I think Customs, they're leaning towards animation more than they are with living, breathing equipment such as a canine. I'm pro canine. So it's how do you want to invest? There's pros and cons. If they put facilities on Palau, such as the airport, fixed facility, they all come in that one slot from the airplane. That's great for automation. New technologies with wands, atomizers, so forth, so on, can detect various things. I think they're leaning towards that route because it's less manpower and it's fixable. It's really hard for a K9 team, even though I'm pro K9, to get the team certified together. It takes 90 days. So both have pros and cons, but I think a blend of both can fill the gaps of the limitations for the mobility of what we have. So it's another discussion that we need to look forward to, which is another plan of mine to say we need to look at this to see how we can do it smarter, not harder.
Okay, so the K9 at the airport is under the Bureau of Public Safety. It's with Customs, or is it a separate? Can you, which agencies does it fall under?
Well, this is the jurisdiction lines we have, not just with resources or finance. The border control is beyond the doors. When people land, they still have to fill out their visas, declarations. They're still immigrating. They're tourists. They're still coming in. We cannot stop them until they're in public property, which is the parking lot. So we can go all the way up to the locked doors. We can see the other agents, but they have different jurisdiction. They can't jump in the car and run their blue lights down the street. We do the public safety, and they're doing the importing, the customs portion of it. So there are two different rules to an airport, to the seaport. We cannot get in the containers. They have all their partnership programs to go into containers, opening the seals for that verification. So there is a lineage difference between us and them, but we can still work together.
Actually, I'm talking about the K9 housing or facility by the airport. Is it under the Bureau of Public Safety or Customs?
Well, there's two kennels. There's the one that was built for the Bureau of Public Safety, and then there's the portable kennels that we gave to Customs that we no longer needed at that time. So we call them outdoor runs. I don't know what you call them. They're using, so we have different facilities. However, the dogs, the 7 dogs that we have, I'm letting them use 3 because my opinion is for a country this size, 4 dogs should be enough to handle shifts and to support the different divisions as needed versus 7 dogs, 7 days a week, 24/7, because they still require investigators and support. So we're still coalescing, working together. Customs has their own kennels, but we allow them to use our dogs. I wasn't allowed to do this because under the DSCA program, but we needed to take care of the health of the dogs to get them exercise, and that was just too much work for the lack of personnel that we have to have one person take a dog out and do 4 hours of training per dog, exercise, vet clinic. It's just put them to use, have Customs use them for now. I'm speaking with the program now to see if we can release those dogs officially onto their property books because they are assets. So it's another topic I'm working on. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We like to see what kind of recommendation you would have for Palau to utilize this program of K9 program, because I understand it can be very effective in terms of detecting drugs and other things like bombs and other contrabands. Although we want to make sure that we are able to cover the cost of maintaining this program, because it can be very costly to maintain a K9 program, to include funding the personnel and people in charge of the program. So we will really welcome any recommendation that you have to kind of make the most out of this program. Any kabang Chief?
So lang, akti muti di other sel lem question kar ada customs. I get lure give up ada customs I get yablil initiate timlil help kama Minister of Justice manganya MOU lo ada customs border mauk MOU ngara tele postal post office ndiri ngani upload create MOU rangkal director kara kay nine ngani MOU with through the MOU ngani relationship ti lo dol dir so lang.
Sulat, Chief. Any question nagila takara truck drug trafficking. Double one.
Sorry, Chairman. Director, I just want to point out that when the BPS and customs come and do show and tell at the schools, it looks wonderful. But from your discussion, it's not working too well in the where it should be. They come to the schools with the dogs and they do the search and all of that. What we like to see is for customs and your office to put an understanding together and make it work at the border where it needs to happen. Lesel omeregel show and tell ang malungil. This cell lol sa lela dial walgor amars. So, Director, that's where we need for you to fine-tune everything. And if it needs to be, let us know what needs to happen. But those little details should be ironed out. And we need to get the program working so well so we can fill the gaps and then it doesn't get in. That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Senator. That is my biggest problem. So the K-9 program is new. It wasn't doing well when I arrived. I did my best to make it flourish the best I can. We don't have enough resources, the personnel, the K-9 training, so forth, for the other 6 positions. We have 1 person in training, however. The problem comes down to the customs. I do not control them. The pay, the promotions, who works a dog. So we don't know how to bring that together at this time because they are totally separate from the Bureau of Public Safety. So our jurisdiction was drawn, I call them the doors. When you walk up, you can't go in. That's customs until your baggage comes out. They do the searches, and when they walk out that glass door, that's when we can do our searches. It isn't to discredit them because the dogs are certified at 90%. No one's 100. If we're catching the 10% outside those doors, we make them look bad, but we want to work with them. So we'll do the parking lot in case someone's dropping off. They do, as the planes land, they do the cargo as it comes in. And we might do it again as maybe check them twice. So it's working jointly together. We established an MOU last June to cover those aspects. And furthermore, we worked out an MOU with the post office because anyone can walk in and check their mail. People can send powder in an envelope, a little bit each time. Next thing you know, you got a nice gram that you could sell. It's importing. So I was having an argument in a respectful way. I don't need your permission to go in the post office where the combinations are, so we were running the dogs up and down those little containers where the mail is. And the dogs will find it through there. If there's a strong response, then we'll know that maybe there's something in a box that hasn't cleared customs yet, because that's their job to work with postal currently. So we're on the other side of the airport, we're on the other side of the mailbox where the combination is. We're trying to work together. That in all instances, the response is call the NEU. So we're working on our reporting procedures to fine-tune everything, like you said. I just don't want to spend the same amount of money on a new facility for them when they can use ours, and we have a lineation of to the left is customs, to the right is ours. Keep it to the same cleanliness standard. It's the standards, it's a responsibility. We can have accountability that I'm responsible, but the responsibility only comes when I hold that person responsible. Because as a whole, you have to appoint people for that. So, and right now I have the kennel master who's absorbing all the responsibility. If there's a dog gets injured, if the dog's not fed, or there's an incident, equipment not working, facility, it's all on her now, but it'll be on the other handlers as we go in there. And how do you bring 2 kennel masters in one facility is what I need to speak with customs about now. But I'm not against it. I'm always open to plans. I don't have a single plan, but if we can come together collectively, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Chief.
Testing. Chairman, kami tinggal members ma tinggal ko team lem kami kami hotel oversight hearing. Kaya statement tem lamdong since ka mga drugs. Kundo sa inabom lo ayos kwase kada ngari ako na pending el bill tokora police using drugs. Mong akuk ngak akum na sa ambreda nga kamla tiol de suer kami. Linga akuk totalak different sel la ambreda pila police. Sa kapal completely la ka police on drugs, marijuana. Na diakal ngarang nasa ngakamla madura adal legaklal. It's a downers. The police al ading yel ngaria quick reaction gideling laging for our safety so dal matmal. Kung pa kasing police ang mula uspe ang marijuana. Sige di ako kora aldisuir gidel sa gidel toy. Lang direkal marijuana direkal sa edel. We feel more drugs, illegal drugs. Sige da aldisuir lang umlasing safety of police direkal important. Ada police kata mal clean, ada clean mau reaction kita sab ada beredel mau confront tagel borngil gua reports ma sige da lusu.
Absolut chief ngil kami terkau ma direkal guk the swim gil sel tokra traksak mral na sensuada rogul mo sa tial aranglela police force gidel di mo drug free ding kumdaso sel point ra directoral awal guk kolomdaso sel tial guk manpower aboda abol guk til testa adal di pasetir marijuana el terminator ngi el salmal mangal mo face ra problem ra shortage ra sa kumdasen le point ring ding I agree na singe del losi collect na singe mga nga pulisa mo dia kalos pa drugs all ngi dil form drugs das sige the point na singe dil have to be alert 100% tama in the tira das sige mal clock to train drugs okay.
The chairman looked my way, so I guess I can speak. Director, I know you're working out your issues with the canines and customs. I want to speak a little bit about chain of custody, and specifically when we're talking about drug cases and drugs, because my understanding is there are a lot of different places drugs can be held when a case is pending and whose custody it's with, and to me that just leads to problems. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I have been working on the armory and the evidence rooms. They're not up to any standard other than the one in Palau, which is steel gate, cement walls, lock. I don't want to go into details. However, starting this week, possibly next week, we're getting our armory upgraded. It's for free. I'm not here to ask for money for that. They're putting in humidifiers, weapons racks, new safes, all to be at their standard. Norwegians are here to help us with that assistance. The two locations, there's actually three. There's one at the Division of Maritime Law Enforcement. There's one at my building, which we're currently sharing with the immigration upstairs, but our evidence room is there with cameras. We're trying to get as secure as possible, and the other one would be over at the Transnational Crimes Division area. I want all three brought up to standard. If that means CCTV cameras, two-person rule, there's rules in place. I don't want to.
So I don't know anything about law enforcement, but I do know that securing one room is easier than securing three. So why are there three different evidence lockers? Why not just one?
So when we have a case, his evidence is fish. It's still evidence, sir. With the chief of transnational crimes, I know everything, but I don't know everything. If they're working a case and they're storing the materials because surveillance will take longer to get the dealer, I do not want, I mean, I'll take anyone on a buy and bust drug case. My goal is to let the surveillance go on longer to find out where these drugs are coming from. So if he has chain of custody, it doesn't matter how many locations we have. If he has chain of custody, we can chain it to the next custody, like to Guam for testing. So it's a safe storage location. They get quite full. We don't fly out every week, so there might be multiple cases in there. So with the 3 rooms we have, it's not an expansion of the program. It's the diversity of not calling us in to open up the other 2 locations. It's so the divisions have it locally so they can maintain their records for integrity and chain of custody. Thank you, sir.
And if I could also, okay, that's within BPS. I understand Customs also has their own, even for drug cases. Don't you see that as a problem, as having another evidence room there, another set of procedures, chances for things to get missing, or I don't know. You know what can happen.
I understand that question. However, I'm not familiar enough with Customs and Border Control. They might be securing suitcases. If they have 50 suitcases, they determine what they need. I don't determine for them. But if it's under a chain of custody and we're securing evidence from one law enforcement division to another, there's no problem with that. I don't see that. I mean, I can speak with the Attorney General on that matter. But until we have a facility that's standard, like our SOPs for everyone, we'll maintain the 3 for now. It's a very low cost, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned that different ministries have control over different rooms, and different divisions within BPS have control over their own rooms. It's just, to me, in the future, and if it hasn't in the past, in the future, it can lead to problems. That's just my opinion, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at. Maybe one giant warehouse. I don't know.
Oi, tasis medic kan mutul kadi smodi sector evidence room. Gamlo include ra armory, room lottery. Misidung ra evidence room atrak sang malti imong. Dakal 3. Gamlo include armory, sa manilo kan evidence room ada manilo torabos. Sedo to atrak santi imong ngabla pulis. Oh. Asu kom sa custom atura atrak santi ko lisel evidence tin di suma na atrak sa mga custom. Listenan or kama mamlangu lagi mulmer kama mamlangu ngara aboard every time. Declare say so lang.
So, Chief, kaya amal ko niya kasi al sukum tamada amya customs, they have to forward that case la kami prosecute kami ang mo process a case, right?
Oh, I see.
So,
kama mating arsem tadal overnight the ice, for example. Oh.
Director, if I may ask, you had mentioned that it seems like the other divisions are not at the optimum level. What is the optimum budget that you think? And you don't have to answer that. I think when you went for your medical leave, the budget was ongoing. I don't know if you're able to share that with the president, but there might be an opportunity if a supplemental budget comes in, because we would like to see an optimum budget that could actually, whether we're going to be able to fund it or not, I think it's still your responsibility to at least put it out there so we kind of know what. And if I may just ask, are you a police? When you actually get sworn in to be a director, are you a police officer per se, and what is your rank?
In reference to the statute, I'm a captain that the president can appoint.
So you would be able to wear, yeah, because the previous director was actually wearing a uniform, so.
I like to be in the shadows. I like to supervise and let my chiefs do their job.
No, that was my question, but you could actually wear a uniform. And that also entails you to have a gun.
Yes.
Yes. No, that was my extent of my question. Yeah. Thank you. And
Sure.
Chair.
Director, just one last question before we move on to the next. I noticed we have gone 2 hours, which I promise we have a minimum 2 hours, but if you can be patient enough to get all the questions, I think it's important that we discuss all these questions that we have. Are we currently, or do we have any effort at the moment working with the USDEA on the issue of drugs? I like to know this because I understand we have recently joined the Interpol, which I think is a good step forward to help us counter, not only the other transnational crimes such as human trafficking and other things, but also for the smuggling and the trafficking of drugs coming into Palau.
Thank you, Chairman. I cannot reveal what we are or what we're not doing because that would just help the adversaries combat crime. However, I will state I do have contact with 3-letter agencies. You can choose. There's a few of them. We're getting training, we're getting support, we're getting information, we're getting resources at no cost. Palau is still a new country. They need to crawl, walk, run like the other countries. So they're teaching us, and the only training I support are train the trainer, which means if Chief Sengabao gets trained as a trainer, we can train ourselves. Give someone fish, or you can teach them to fish. And that's my point, that we could be self-sufficient and not reliant on all the other countries. The Interpol, the Pacific Island Chiefs of Police, the Defense Dialogue, all of that information is we're learning from each other how to do business instead of trying something new that has been practiced before. So we learn from other people's failures on how we can save resources. And I must add that the budget that her and I worked on, it was a joint effort amongst all of us. What we gave you is what we needed and not what we wanted. So it's very important when we write our justifications, and we're doing this not just for the salary, not for a pay increase. As long as we get the resources to do our job, we can do it more efficiently. But it's real difficult when the corrections, for instance, doesn't have enough guards to take 70 prisoners to the bathroom that don't have it, to bring them food, the isolation, religious services, medical transports. That's just one division alone. So we spent months on this. So any dollar that's taken away from us, we're taking away from our emphasis, which is law enforcement and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's actually very reassuring to know that we're also considering working with the outside entities to help us with this war on drugs. I think there's no more questions that's directly related to the drug trafficking, so maybe we can go on to the next item, which is a policy on the issuance of firearms. Director, if you may just explain to the senators and the committee the process of issuing firearms to the deputized officers, and what sort of measures do you have in place to ensure that the firearms that are being issued to the officers are not to be put on wrongful usage? As you know, our Constitution clearly prohibits firearms in the country. And so by law, it's really just the police officers who are allowed to carry firearms.
Thank you, Chairman. The Code 17 PNC, Section 4507, written in my answers. We start at the vetting process when personnel are hired. It continues through the academy because there might be a trainee for a while. When they get to the academy, they're also vetted from there, whether they're a suitable candidate to possess a firearm. There's background checks. There's many checks we do along the way, but when it comes to my office, the person's been vetted, they're a law enforcement officer, and they're in performance of duties that require them to have it. It's not on a case-by-case basis, do I need one or not? Do you need one? Chiefs, investigators, so forth, sure. If he needs one on a boat because of security requirements, sure. But it can't go in front of someone who feels there's a threat. If there's a threat out there, any one of you or anyone, and they present the threat to me, we can get escort, we can get assistance to your location. For the deputized process, they're also vetted, and it's requested through our office. And one of my major requirements is, when is their weapons qualification? So I don't believe anyone should be carrying a gun unless they have a weapons qualification. We maintain that. I just made a database last week for the person that's in charge of opening the range and setting it for us and going in the arms room. He checks that roster. If they're not authorized through me, which is to the president, he's the final authority, they come to me and I check to see if they've been to the course. No one gets a gun, and it's in the SOPs. No one gets a gun unless the supervisor checks to ensure that they met all the qualifications. Thank you.
Can you explain the list of officers who are authorized to possess firearms? I understand that's required by law, that you have before you allow an officer to possess a firearms, you're supposed to have the president to approve that, and a copy of the list is distributed to the OEK as well. So can you explain that so that it's makes sense for us to understand that even though the list is there, doesn't mean that everybody on the list get to carry firearms all the time. There are the ones who are only allowed to use the firearms when they're on duty, and when they're done with their duty, they have to submit the gun back to the office, and it has to be taken account of and put into a safe place. Can you explain that whole process?
I think you explained that very well, Mr. Chairman. If it's a law enforcement officer, I know the employees, the 204 we have, the 43 vacancies. She has a database well that we scrutinize all the time. I track everything on cheat sheets, where people are, what they're doing. Personnel, manpower, promotions, do they need one now? What you're talking about specifically, sir, is the authority to carry for 24 hours overnight at home in your car. That's a separate request form, and that has to be verified by us that it's in performance of their duties. There is no gun that's given to someone for their own safety. They're important. It's for people that are on call that work night shift, that will have it with them and they can respond quicker to the location that they need to go to. It's a different statute than 4507, sir. Thank you.
I guess we inquire about the process of handling firearms, especially the guns that are issued to the police officers, because I believe some time back there were guns that went missing from the inventory of the police, and I believe to this day there hasn't been any report that the guns were recovered. So it brings a concern to the public that when there's a process that's in place, and sometimes if it doesn't, it's not followed, the procedure is not followed, it can lead to these cases where the gun go missing and unaccounted for. So that's the reason why we brought up this issue of gun control, especially in the Bureau of Public Safety. So we hope that it'll be something that be of your priority to make sure that you continue to safeguard the use of guns and the inventory of guns, so that it doesn't go missing or wind up in the wrong hands. That's basically the concern. Any question from the senators?
Sorry, Chair. After looking at the list, it's a long list. My question is, the first question is, are these people not currently entitled to have a gun? Or how many are there currently able to carry guns as we speak?
Which list are you talking about, Senator?
We have a list here with all the names.
The current one.
Yes.
Those are all vetted, and as that came through my office, I checked my list, I checked the rehab list, I checked the drug testing list, I checked to make sure there was no new information from the last 6 months that someone committed a crime and didn't deserve a weapon.
Okay.
And that we verified it against their position description, which is what they get paid for, which is law enforcement. If someone moved up out of that position or is off island, we make sure the guns are secure.
Okay, then my next question is, according to the letter from the President, while acting, they carry firearms while acting in officer capacity in the tour of duty to ensure the safety of the public. What's happening right there in the public that you need to have a gun to go there and people will feel safe in Palau currently?
Senator, every country has their own laws which they allow that might be excessive in other countries. This country allows police officers to carry a weapon. It might seem extreme to some, but to the most, when a police officer arrives and he has, say, 7 rules of force to engage that deadly force, that's up to the country to vote for, to elect, to pass legislation. I'm not going to go through the rules escalating to that level, but you don't know what you're responding to with the increase in anti-human trafficking, with the increase of drug smuggling. There's big risk out there, as we know of last month, that you could be killed over doing your jobs. And I want to make sure our police are safe and those weapons are used to keep the public safe. Thank you, Senator.
I just want to make a point that there's a fine line between safety and beyond that. Sometimes having guns out there will be more of an issue than not having guns out there. Most of the public is safe. There's no guns out there. We don't expect them to be there. Yes, there are situations and circumstances where guns are needed, but we don't take it to the point where it becomes an issue because we have all these guns running around. That's something that I want to make an impression upon, because the people have been shot are with guns that are being given to people. The public, nobody's been shot on the streets with someone out there. So we want to kind of keep that trend. Yes, if need be, let the guns be used, but we don't want these guns to be out there and then they become an issue. And not the criminals, but on this side of our angle. So I just want to make that impression to make sure that if we do this, it's all for the right reasons and we don't end up with other issues to begin with. Thank you.
Senate President Cabo. O Cabo Abal.
Adi luwilek answer answer statement raw. Our police, if you remember about a year ago, ang aringal buigal mlather tel. Karbila obanga boys at tirkang palungil madagay. Rekodiot to the boys and get them explain mungaramako kobanga boys. Ngaram kulto padaringi. So it's not every day they go out and say, I'm going to draw a gun against somebody. But in that situation, it had to be done to protect the other police officer. Mang waise kada madaktel ngrawul mangira ngariya ulab, hindi direkal it proves safe for them and make sure ka other ablua direkal silba akla.
Chief.
아니야 시츄에이션을 더봉했더라 아니야 아들 나무 kakuas wala pa mo dorm ngaria palasil ang shoot to disable sige dia palasil al ting once mo spera possible fire cans in gel justified mang nakadulwa sing abo sa dia gidi wala bal ngaregel time lo spare sale weapon sige shoot to disable as sumer tail adam la mo ngia ko kita lungli wala mo dor sige ding gidi oy absolutely
Halidik. Akmalo uling ito siyang mal uling ito mo spare sale lungilus pa lel. Mal dia ko gobar kanya mo spare ay. Hindi gida mo plato kasi lakal mdur tiang. El bon niya do pro riul. Em da sig kadwa dilung. Makmal doling ito sensei lang langan niya gil loy si makmal dim lulu si algidros pe ingidros pe. El lamtel. Yang ramul lel sebab kira af. Di la kabolite si. Sila mal bonita eso.
Waise senator da sarbuli se rogui mal klagar garbi lama uspale la voice dira kalmal da se they take pride in using it also mangirel it will take an extreme measure also magirel ma usperingi rendira they have to answer to everybody egirel justify sel teletele ultabdi voice ndi ultabdi for any reason while on duty he should answer for it. Once you put it on, it's on there for show, if you want to say it, until such time a safety ng public, mabulis, is at risk.
Let me finish that up, please. We did not cover the 7 rules of deadly force. When I first approach, I will calm the situation down. The second is show of force. Umayam, need your help. She's got my back. 2 people can solve a situation after you try talking to someone. If that doesn't work, we have unarmed self-defense. So part of the wellness program the president is offering is Aikido training. We still have judo training, so they can practice that. If that doesn't work, we have batons, we have non-lethals, sprays. What do you call them here? Zappers? The stun guns, we call them. There's different rules all the way up. Deadly force is a last measure 100%. If we're supporting tasks for people that are on this island and they do demand guns, we have long guns as well. I say show me the threat. We're just, the first 3 rules of deadly force is all we need on this island. And that's what I try and convince other people until it may escalate from drugs or trafficking. For that special situation, we have special gear for that and special personnel that's trained in those situations. Thank you.
Director, thank you very much. Can I just ask a question? The list that's provided to the OEK dated January 24, 2024, there was a list that came before. And there were names there that were not police officers, and I know they're not on this list. What happened to the guns? I know the other name was former President Tamir Masao. So what happened to the?
Thank you, Senator. The policies we have on the storage is any gun that is not in use gets stored. Any gun that is taken out by serial number assigned to an employee is supervised. The supervisor knows they're on the list, they're authorized to have it, and they're going to work. You cannot show up at work and say, I need my gun, unless you're on the duty schedule. So we have certain levels of prevention in there. If there's a person assigned to a gun, that's who we knew had it last, which also determines where the location is. But they're inventoried and they're stored in a container where it's 2 people to get in, 1 person witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's very clear for the Ministry of Justice or the Bureau of Public Safety. I clearly understand that you need to have SOPs that everybody hears too. I'm talking about people who are the list contain their name and they're working for the airport. They're not on the current list right now. What happened to the guns? Peter Polo is one of them. So what happens when they're not in the Bureau of Public Safety? Who issues them guns and how do we know that they got to where it's safe?
Yes. The other customs, immigration, the other officers you're speaking of still falls under the statute, 17 PNC 4507. They have their rules. They have their guns. If they don't have guns and are requesting to use ours, then we supply that to them as well. There is a separate list. I believe you have the Bureau of Public Safety's list, but not the customs or immigration or the others, Senator.
Yeah, I think it's clear because it's my fault. I'm confused because I thought this is the comprehensive list of all the guns that are issued to people. So when I saw the previous list and they had names and now they're not here, now I understand that it's not only you that assigns guns. There are other. Okay, thank you.
Ilitasil sa Senator, sa list tagiral kamal encompass ra blabulis, ma marine law, ma airport police, ma customs, ma marshals. Ela marshals are justify ready to protect our judges. Over the years, they have their own safe. Former directors make sure nga safe for till. Misal lakal on duty, ito spe. Airport police mga say. That justify already mutang ra border, salve soy sa baad and sabel aggressive. Hindi ra nga safe for till. Na justify adrin mga raul mangiri lola pabos.
I understand. Hindi ala sumang clear am lara previous list. Di ala ngarti agi the list. Ako gero lo sa selbo sum lor. That's all I'm asking. Lo sing kami ko mola babos ro walo bangari bebi rabos el beri the tablo belaw.
Return na mera blabulis and property of blabulis. Assets of blabulis coming. Yes, coming.
Say it, okay. Sulang.
Agi olap.
Well, mlariyang clear ministers in our opinion ng guktial may presidente di malebol. Eto tola bay galbos ko begi model wasing ngarangklel. Awul mo tolap mak diswal assure wasin diadir kalolap. Lendi ang clear list.
No, they have been returned, and when they were given to them, mlariyang justification for why they needed the firearms. Recently, tayo the PSL administration ay gililulto may.
Make follow up. Is this the only list that exists for who should carry firearms in the Republic? Yes or no? Just that. Yes. Thank you.
Mayor Press. So, tirigel nga na US Embassy because they're not US military. Tola babos, tadamiw.
Namodiak, agi blabulis amla cancel MOU will provide us security measures and mortir. We've been saying agi ngusong sa raab, edidi agi ay all top there other mortir. So agi mle tamlekat sel MOU. Return or other mammal may.
May latrigel adon are say al Mangara Embassy.
Adalo firearm.
The Dalo firearm. Okay. Then the also medal military according to kan dal firearm. Sula.
Labo Presidente.
What type of gun do you have in police station that are to be used by this law enforcement?
Senator, we have the Glock, the 9mm, the handgun. the square one that we use for the law enforcement officers.
9 mm?
9 millimeter. Yes, yes. It's
45? 45?
No, 9 millimeter is smaller than a 45.
Yeah, you have. Do you have 45?
We have the M4s and M9s that we have. As far as the other guns, we have a weapons instruction we're doing now to get rid of all the evidence guns. We used to have revolvers, 45s, and so forth. But basically, it's a standard issue that we have for everyone right now.
Are they assigned when it's necessary to use, or you use all the time when you come to work?
For the law enforcement's involved when they report for duty.
When they are on duties? If
Only,
not,
only
they
when they're on
return.
duty. And they check their weapon in before they go home.
Okay.
Senator.
Officers must practice with a particular weapon they will be qualified to use in their duties. Is that what you're doing now?
Yes, Senator. That's what I was referring to before they go on the list for authorization to have one. We bring them to the range to make sure they're qualified. So if anyone's qualification expires, they have to re-go to the range to be certified. And before they're issued a gun, their qualification must be current.
Have you practiced with them?
I've done more than practice, Senator. I've showed them how to do high threat protection, how to move and shoot, communicate at the same time, Senator.
So when they go and do practice, where they go?
We have, what's the name of the range? Goksaya? Sounds German.
Yeah, firearms range ang nga ngat pangal gimos peri.
Okay, I have another requirement for initial training, including training on use of force, safe handling, and practice under various conditions. Have you do that?
Sorry, I need clarification on that. When a personnel goes to a range, we give them a few rounds to familiarize with the weapon if it's been a while. We can show them kneeling, prone positions. As far as conditions, that training is held at the police academy, but it is a perishable skill. That means it will deteriorate. So whenever we have the opportunity to bring the military in and cross-train with them, they show us how they use their current tactics.
It looks like Valerie know more than what you know about this requirement. A requirement for extensive practice use of the specific firearms to be used. Are they...
Which weapon are you talking about, Senator?
Requirement for extensive practice use.
Extensive practice use is how to respond when the weapon jams, how to reload the magazine. It's not just pulling the trigger for qualification.
Yeah, that's what so they know how to... Have you seen them doing this or...
Yes, Senator. I show them how to do sports, slap, pull, observe, release, tap, squeeze.
No, my concern, these are 200... how many? 225?
We're authorized 226. We have approximately 168 at the time.
And we haven't heard or we haven't seen these new police officers in a training somewhere. Do they have been trained somewhere?
Senator, we did this in July before my extended stay. We did it again in October, and we have one this week or next with the Coast Guard. We do radio announcements for public safety to let them know we're using the range so no one's alarmed.
I'm just asking because public are concerned about the amount of guns to be used by police force. That's why it's a concern for public. It's scary to have that much gun around Koror in some part of Babeldaw, you know. That's why we're concerned.
As long as the officers in performance of their duties, I have full confidence that they'll get the job done with minimum force necessary.
Is there any board, commission, or authority with responsibility for setting training standard?
The current standard, I don't have it in front of me. There was various ones, but they're so similar between the Marines, between the United States military. They're basically the same. of shooting a paper target at 50 meters. I like to give more extensive training at 75 yards, 80 yards to show the capabilities to the new officers. But the qualifications are all done within the 50 millimeter or 50 meter range, Senator. Thank you.
Kabil police kardi malkoy le kada concern leng kamil amatangel wasing kidar other vela mal mkadep osyo sergit. Mang sep edel di kibet tek leng wabu abo es. Mang aige concern na other ablu ma ulgodo gere kami amatangay. Di ako makom lam sasel ngara YouTube ng Facebook tirgele cross border. Ulda lakar tirgel terul police. Betul da lakar til man lo mtekat hindi dim lakat talot to dia boys. Ese akan sunur mam hita adibon ngaringar terul boy kat telal boy lo da lakar me mot to dia boys el mosia. Se akan sunur kami am tengel ko police indirectly din directly kan sunur kami ulen directly dakal soma masakmer police el matmal. We don't like to see these officers get into trouble. That's why we ask you, Director, to give them training. How far then they can use the gun? Or what environment they will be allowed to use the gun? We can understand that, but public that are not aware of that situation. So we just ask you to give full information to the public so they will understand. So if they see the presence of the police somewhere in the area in Goror, anywhere in Babaldao, it's an action that you must use the car, either to kill or just to make somebody ineligible to fight back, and then you bring him to the hospital and save his life, something like that.
Senator, the gun stays holstered until you've gone through the 6 rules of deadly force. When it comes out after that, if you point it, you better be pointing at someone you want to kill. There is no shooting the arm, shooting the leg. That does not exist. That's Hollywood. It stays on the side. But if there are areas of concern on this island, you do not want to see guns. That's probably private property, which we have no jurisdiction. But if there's a public place, you don't want us to be there. And the adversaries, the bad guys know there's no guns in the area. You're inviting other troubles. So we like to meet a balance with you on public safety to ensure the public. We are trained. It only comes out when we absolutely have to, after we've exhausted other means. We have behavioral health, wellness screening, just the supervisors checking on their own employees. If someone's off or drunk or something's wrong, we report it. No one gets a gun. We take that very seriously, Senator.
Would you allow like those police on the main road, making the car which way you go or what? Do you allow them to carry the gun? The traffic...
That'll depend on the officer. Every capable officer of carrying a weapon carries one because we never know when an emergency will happen. If you're out doing your job and you have a gun, that's fine. But if the police officer doesn't have a weapon, it might be because of adverse action. It might be because they don't need it. They're just putting cones on the ground and they're in a different role that's non-law enforcement, more of a control. Like when we do security around a hotel and you see the police shirts. They may or may not have weapons depending on the security threat at that time, Senator.
Yeah, but it's it doesn't look good just to be on the main road, and then you use a gun. The people who are here will, even the tourists will be wondering what's going on in Palawan. They just stand on the main road, and because I think you know very well in Japan and in UK, they don't have a gun when they have a club. Have you tried to think if you're going to use a club or rather than issue them a gun, because we don't want to make Palau look a dangerous place that you go to Palau. They have a gun, so be careful. You know, we don't want that kind of attitude for foreigners to come to Palau. So if you need those and you need money, tell the Vice President. So you can get the money and buy them. So at least you use them. Also the ngal chibra nargole. Al sumangariak lagdal sumiuluspe. Ra airport malubeng anywhere. Please ole mo siya babil mo ra Vice President. Maluba President lo langit tay gigil aigel klagdal al muspe. Mang raw ero molokor kamam malubeng. Kamam olang sir kumiu. Ding malungil seperti Vice President. Ma President raigel klagdal al muspe. Len direkal mom hitar ngudur kumiu sel mertiang imdula check yauspe aigang elakar kumiu el for security ra adra blur vela. Dige gidak tunge. Thank you, Director.
Let me add one thing, please. The island is large. If we have to respond to Peleliu and there's a machete fight, and I don't have a weapon, my officers are in danger. So before we pass legislation taking away our weapons, you have to understand the crimes that are being committed here to see what the threat level is. Always the minimum use of force necessary. So the substations where there's hardly any crime, is it because we have the weapons? Could be, it's prevention. Or do we take the weapons away and allow crime to happen so people feel better? That is not my job to decide. I just enforce the law and I make sure my police are safe and the public is as well. Thank you.
Sila lala mora Senator Basilius, mora Vice, mora Talams, ang sangapam. Gusto rin kabiyo kataman na mo.
Dati director mo tato. Mr. Levitz, klaadang tamsadat yale akti mga dato ulta korbela we tim mo ay sering alta kor Amerikel. Kado ker tial listrar adal carry aboys. Yung angara 200 maternal at or tela. Hindi mangarnya listrar ade Valerim kauma direktor. Hindi tiya lista tiya kalootik mula sa terkal at ngaral firearms sa lolap. Ya kumda swa list need to be provided lopong kela what type of firearms sa lolap. Ya o sisilta ma inventory ra firearms mengirul provide ringin mera kongres lo oti ay ti sa laboy sa ngaral sa labli labuli sa ngaral boy sa ngabi. Akumda sa segi dia integrity sel to sa integrity ma honesty ra bulu. Lendi akan ngarang kataridlia konstitusion mo ti akata to alaw boys. Hindi alaw kami lola boys, and I think it is required. Hindi aktung waseng required hindi close to talel alangaring alis tel may alangaring ada boys. E dire kalo oti ay ti sela boys ser al sela bulur bela. Mangaral boys sangaring.
The list you're speaking about, Senator, for the authorization to carry a gun, could be any gun, but that list is for the 9mm that we spoke earlier of. If it's for the M4, it's a different qualification. So I don't issue long guns to anyone. It's basically the same gun, might have a different serial number. Because of our limited supply, we might give the gun to someone else.
Thank you, Director. That explains it. But that does not qualify my question. My question is what types of guns are being issued out to these people that needs to carry guns?
9mm clock.
All of them?
Yes, that's what the military gave us.
Okay.
We did not purchase them. They're all the same, and they have a fixed sight. That means you cannot adjust them.
Okay.
So the M4 you can adjust because every face is different, but the Glock, anyone can fire a Glock because it's iron sights.
Okay, so can you provide the list of how many firearms are in the police station and what type of firearms are in the police force, especially the jurisdiction of Ministry of Justice?
Of course, Senator.
And then another question that brings to me is that I thought the carrying firearms is for security and safety of the Republic of Palau. But how I see the list, it's listed for personal safety, or personal protections. It's on page of, especially for the marine law.
Waise senator rel suko mangoba magala lakalo babo ese lakal protect tak langar rangi protect tak langar rakaw awul mangoba babo esa I make sure kaw maklokle ma protected, but while he's doing it he should also protect himself. Like I said, at an incident about a year or two ago, they fought. Bulis am lagi nila uspe abo sila lang matang kali mora bulis. E akarabila uspe matigay gidele use of fire, excessive force. We do have that. Hindi kadil peyo tel top da abo esa ngidil bulis, and it's secret to them. Hindi kad sabel lingulo tabadi without any good reason. Mal mo last tel draw. المعمو جيلا لا هذا المتمل يا هذا ملو سبيري. And then it's scrutinized after it's being pulled out. Every time it's being pulled out, and then a report has to be filled out why he took it out. Yeah, you can't allow police officers to be out there and not have a gun and still to protect you with what?
Hindi ako police officer, matilang ati ako ngayon. I'm not, hindi ako nga nasin, mati ako nga ay ka mati ako ngayon masada ilang. At ito ako ngayon was saying, what type of protection shall police have to draw the gun? Based on the circumstances, and what circumstances? A weapon been drawn by another person? Or is it just a fight and they couldn't handle it, so they have to draw the gun?
Senator, we can't write that on paper because the scenarios are different. If the officer is injured and is saving his own life because he's bleeding from a gunshot, if he's protecting someone else from being maimed or killed, they can do it as well. There's different scenarios that we have to refer to the Office of Professional Standards to see if the officer responded in a correct way. I said there were 7 rules of deadly force, but you can go from 1 to 7 real quick. If they pull out a gun, they're going to shoot. We don't know the circumstance until you tell me. Every scenario, I might give you a different answer, but definitely to protect others' lives, taking that life to save someone's life, to save them from a maiming, definitely. To save your own life, definitely. Escapee jumping out of the jail, no. We have different rules. We'll catch them. There's certain scenarios where what warrants the situation and the crime the person has committed. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I think the thing is about security and safety and the training for the officers and how the guns are being drawn to use and what type of force needs to be done based on the circumstances of the situation. But look, you're being in the U.S., you've been in the military. I'm not sure if you've been in AP from the military. Police officers or MP. That's a correction then. But yes, when is the gun being... The U.S. is very strict on using the gun. And when's the restriction of using the gun here in Palau? That's what I'm asking.
Thank you, Senator. It's a complicated question. You said the United States. That's 50 states. Every state is different. So as the states that I worked in from Washington, Texas, Massachusetts, they don't allow the same rules. But the fundamentals of the 7 rules is what we enforce. So for here, if you think there is no threat for us to carry a gun, pass the legislation, because right now I'm following a law and they're authorized to have it. If you don't want them to have it, pass a new law and I will follow it. I will follow. But it's the threat, like the embassy, they did not need them, so they don't have them. We're 5 minutes down the road, so we mitigate by giving resources for that. Thank you.
So with your experience, at least provide that the language to the law. Okay? Because and that brings me the question and the reason why I'm asking about personal protection. When is the personal protection should be drawn on a gun? It's the same thing. You don't have, but at least provide the language for both.
I need more clarification, Senator, on which personal protection. Are you talking about very important people?
Basically for the officers and the training of the officers. I'm not sure if you're going to put, like I said, I'm not a police officer. I don't know your regulations and stuff. But you were saying that you at least provide that by law. What did you mention about that for? Oh, I see. Okay. No, that's fine. We'll go ahead and do that. But the list is important. I think we need to know how many guns are in the Republic of Palau and who carry them and what type of guns are they.
It's very small, Senator. I think my brother has more in his basement. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Director, I know you're following the law. That's why you issue this memo authorizing these people to carry gun. Just a question. The Constitution of Palau prohibited guns in Palau. So the government confiscated all the guns and then bought some of the guns to the government. So nobody in Palau carries gun. So what do you recommend? Do you recommend that the police should have guns, or do we find other weapons that they can use to save people's lives and save their own lives? Is there any weapon that they can use instead of using guns? Because there's no guns in Palau. I think if you look back, most of the people who were, some of the people who were shot by police because they were carrying guns. But no citizen have shot anybody because they didn't have guns. So can you also recommend to us what kind of weapons can be used by police officers so we can use that instead of guns?
Thank you, Senator. I'm not here to decide what weapons will or will not be carried, but I can tell you personally, since I've been here, I've watched drug deals go down. I've recorded it. The chief has opened up cases on it. As of Tuesday last week, there's 2 kids outside. 12 o'clock midnight, dogs are barking. Truck pulls up, bunch of cash comes out the window, the kid grabs it and runs away. They're drug dealing. I cannot chase them with my cell phone saying I got your picture. Okay, I cannot apprehend them. Depending on the crime, and this is the key, determines our level of force. Because an individual who's facing 50 years in jail will hurt, maim, it doesn't matter who you are to get out of that situation. So we have to be prepared for all scenarios. I would gladly like to take the guns back, but you're putting us at risk. Maybe we can compromise through legislation.
Well, Director, I'm just asking if you have any recommendations. You could recommend that we use other guns, other weapons, not guns. But can be different on the type of police officer. Maybe the drug enforcement, they can be allowed to have guns. But the traffic officers, maybe they can have other weapons instead of guns. Because when you going throughout public with the guns attached to you, that's also making people uncomfortable with. So I'm just asking if there's any recommendations, and if there is a new recommend to us. But if not, then don't. But it's a decision that we need to make. We made the Constitution that didn't allow anyone to carry weapons, only guns, only the police officers. So, so now we're asking, is there any weapons that can be used by police officers instead of using guns? If there is, then recommend to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Respectfully, you're asking the wrong person who used to carry 3 guns in Iraq and Afghanistan with a grenade launcher. However,
I'm asking you as a director of the public safety.
As a director, let me finish up on that. As a director, we do have non-lethals that we can issue to other personnel. The non-lethals, such as the tasers, probably pepper spray, that we can use differently. But for now, we have a standard that if something happens and there's a scenario and Kenny's in charge, excuse me, Chief Sangabao's is in charge, and he needs help and assistance, it's his case. Any one of these people can get a gun and help them. They're all trained the same way. But for us, this is another topic about whether the police should have guns on this island. If I will follow whatever law or legislation. Right now, the crime is low compared to other high populated, dense areas, but the drugs are coming, the trafficking's coming, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, gambling. It's only a matter of time that we're not prepared. But for right now, I wasn't here during that last police problem, and I haven't seen one in a year. If it's a problem, then we'll address it. If there's a concern for public safety, maybe we should educate the community more, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a policy issue, so we'll look into it.
It's definitely a policy issue, and I think it takes the whole leadership and of course the police force to sit down and discuss this matter, because I think for me, I would be concerned for the safety of the police officer responding to any form of crime. And you mentioned about the scenario where the drug are smuggling. The criminals, even though the law prohibits the importation of, they will find ways to import guns. And in the event there's some sort of a terrorist act that's being conducted by any group of terrorists, and they somehow smuggle guns for themselves to use to conduct their terrorist act. We don't want our police officers to be outpowered by terrorists. So I think those are some of the concerns we need to keep in mind when we deal with this policy on firearms. So the halal balbo talam siyang gagada loldars and then level.
So long, Chairman. Thank you, Director, for your appearance here. I think you have addressed some of the concerns, many concerns that the senators and the people are concerned, and you have addressed them through this forum. When you first, I think it is the first time that you have published a list of police officers who carry guns. So the people were surprised to see the many police officers because they never saw such a list. And what they encourage us and ask us to help, to ask you, is to ensure that the police get more physical training for self-defense and find other means to help them to be able to protect them instead of using guns. Because they understand that Palau prohibits guns, but they also know that there are so many different people from different nationalities coming to Palau, and we're going to encounter many problems in the future. So they just want to see you
do more physical training to equip the police to be able to be in self-defense in whatever situation that may arise that they encounter. Thank you.
I think that was just a comment, and unless you want to respond, we can move to the next question.
Just real quick, since we're short on personnel and time, we do have a combat arms course that came up, and the only ones that we're able to send was the Division of Maritime Law Enforcement, because it is an advanced course. It wasn't just a weapons qualification range, it's an advanced course. And then we have another one coming up after that. So as the training permits, I will send more and more officers to get the advanced training so we can assure people that there's safety being conducted out there while they carry the weapon. And on that list, they don't draw that every day. It's shift work as well. So, thank you.
I think Chief niraged kalamle mispogen so clarify nitiang ngania policy kamil disabled. No contradict that tingel director aldo kasi kausel mo tabada bose me shoot to kill or go mo eso kumda sing will clarify tiang tingem unless sak mistake hindi ka dako tingel kasi magara shoot to disable mo akti gamlam lamor tiang nga record man so clarify ngi also kung ngaringi alagem kada tiang nga record mo will clarify til statement tao so the list that you provided, the director, is I'm sorry, maybe the chief of fire and rescue is here. I know in the U.S. and other places, fire and rescue is separate from the police department, and they don't carry guns. So I'm just wondering why you would issue guns to fire and rescue. And I would kind of imagine a situation where you go there and somebody's drunk and got into an accident and might accidentally grab your gun and discharge it. So let me just say that for the record. Normally when you have that kind of thing, the police officer would respond first to assess the situation, and then maybe the fire and rescue will there to actually rescue the person that's not going there with the guns. Yeah?
Ale koradi miskawa tay karanga nga sworn el police officer patrolman rakotol mo police nga tiara tigway siya dirgo recent trabok fire chief rogul chief rabla police asayan na boss mortis lang wagel blalol ko tirgang madagim dim fireman Albornia ngalsang sila igal bebira divisions egigel moklo urior as a police officer. So sira kotol mo police el melang nga tira ko babo esel el al time el gurior fire ang dia ko babo esel di nga ra agagidle safe until such time el warrant trangal mo sparing yak mo malaring but boys which is there the ngara klag malmal ngara klag antilak mo regal police return na rogol mora.
So question na chiba kasi cell anduri tiragal personnel of fire and rescue, do they actually carry guns?
Diak dingil assignment tra patrol laborni iga special assignment ang gilil lobos lang actual patrol officer.
So why would it be necessary that they should be on the list?
Okay, a list di akalwasi ko di wala babo sa rogoy. A list di list tirigel qualified los peabos. Ma-engage ang mornya incident el warrant and then
so tokol kamil mora baby a situation not necessarily fire and rescue situation. Okay, clear. And can you clarify say chief niragedel altang gora igan di kumdaseng wilam clear up ringil se kwase kom gora shoot to disable agora katingi karong sim so matul ada kakwado la basondangi obong am responding to commercial situation e kwasal disable tir malakalom kwado tir each other tilagi da statement ro
Oy say dia appoint the cruel kurama dili. Di sila sing shoot to gila say it's sila ngaria.
Even then.
Yeah, say you know ngaria ada liobo sa o il mga diling math. Aul mo da wada sing shoot to disable.
Is that a policy there?
Yeah.
Shoot to disable,
Yeah.
Director?
Negative.
Negative.
You cannot judge where a bullet is going if it's going to shoot an artery and kill someone. You can't shoot a moving leg. Your job is to shoot center mass, as we teach you at the range. You're not shooting at the leg, hand,
So if
arm.
two people are fighting with a machete, your role as a police officer is to shoot them to disable them from killing each other?
Negative. I do not shoot them if someone is in harm because I do not know the scenario. If I approach,
No, I'm just giving you a scenario, an example. If two people are fighting with a machete, what's your role as a police officer? Are you going to draw your gun at the time?
my answer to you, senators, I'm going to use a minimum amount of force necessary to stop the situation.
Okay. Okay. Unless they turn against you, then you probably would shoot. I'm asking if they're fighting with each other, what do? You never draw the gun at that time?
You cannot explain a scenario because in the academy they teach you there is no one way. So if there's a situation where there's a fight, one person has a knife, it's going to maim someone, there are situations you are allowed to shoot. So
I just gave you the scenario.
no, there's
Two people are fighting with two machetes, fighting each other. What's the policy on that?
The answer remains the same, Senator. We will use the minimum amount of force necessary to apprehend the subjects.
Okay, so is there a policy where you're shooting to disable them?
There is
Negative.
no policy on shooting to disable, Senator.
Thank you.
Kada kita del move on le tiam sumong mal unless ang mal ko sa specific policy question Basilius ak mas kaulan. Okay.
Mr. Levitt, sel om mo mesra page 4 Valerie Tialistra Firearm di imol karikal timbre atawa sel el request mo ola ba apo sel ngara outside traveler orior we will explain ni yang arnya listra director Levitt sama tergal chief sama ngara ande tialist. Kama palist. Oh.
Kamo dasura responder ka Valerie di ko di el clarify for the purpose of the list. Akom daswa la ablakatak al diakangi dil other belaw sa belaw la boys except Tarbulis. Matial lista by law kat issue ngi abla bulis el girel update ta lista all the time nitaqani momrek marguk mga putakli si ilos pe aboys. Seguida nga alla algo kudangaling. Ya mokte gani adire el protector adal tiro la ba assign aboys. Mandiakal mutaw te seguida la linya prohibit malibang banner other belaw hold aboys. So lista de kalbalgulak mlasing arugula da nga lista geria boss all the time. Ngani gel time el tira mo assign el hospital boss. Hindi kal sabi every time linga nga kadamalara approver a president ma director linga maulmang ala ari lim gorawal every quarter at the provider take the list el DOI sergid masing at trigagida authorize lo lababos mandia kal mutaw tra alula boss sel ngara constitution sige ko na sa maktigatel list mandia kal rogul bulis adiola babos all the time ndekal rogul ay gal kumna sa ndekal enough boss marogul bulis ra if I understand correctly mang sige da so dal makataklim bol understand arbitral senators egam luton the others
malungila chairman ng mamlahin siringi inding so basically tial mas kami permission mor terkal mora director of public safety ma chiefs tergarokul chiefs sani olgri lola babo es raikrel orior kami dim explainers ngara page 4 till a list bottom page.
When a police officer like the director or the chief are given their guns, they have they either have a safe at home or keep it in a safe place anywhere that they reside. For example, a Chief Ray lives in Aymalig. He would keep his gun at home at a safe place and easier for him to reach out for it. So that's technically covers everything. So mobile morable, mobile may, but doesn't per se be outside the Orior.
The understand direct nga niya procedure adlo babos ma safeguarding rabos ako na direct sila SOP kami ulgil gel adlo babos sa gil tira perseguir procedure ito lang rabos.
Kasi Senator abos al baskid el sumak sel 24 hours el boss engirel nga niya safe ngarablik store abos al sel ndal sabi lo babos el ngar al sel amlig ma ya di tal time el bogulto drabos sil sumak maurior el diak fireman uk mamrura ngod lurior abla bulis el altan mabo sa degam se bagarang milen ngara safer officer nga kada ko babos lo mais
Sulang
last question.
Kabang
answer. Director Makamil Buddhist Rogui, are you following the law and then issue the gun? Follow your law and regulation? Are you following the law and before you issue the gun? It should be clear because we are confused about how you give the gun to anybody.
Again, Senator, we have a vetting process that starts when they're hired.
There's a process.
There's a process, and we will find people that are unqualified. Psychological behavior, screening, evaluations, how they handle a gun, why they become a police officer. There's an interview process. There's a lot of steps involved.
Yeah, just to make it clear, so you are following the rules when you give the gun to any police officers.
Yes, Senator. There is no just a request, show me your job and I give you a gun. There's more vetting to that because we work with other directors and bureaus to verify that that is the position they're working. It's not a personal request so they can create mayhem or shoot at the school. We make sure that's in place. We understand each other, that when the people come in for shift work, we know each other.
Okay, thank you. We just want to make sure that so the public will understand that you're not just doing this by your own rather than follow the law. Vice Valerie?
Thank you,
okay.
Senator.
Yeah.
Sulang. Adi mo last comment nga kalgila la boys ngam no dagi sara sel SOP kami. Andi aigal go upkeep ma maintenance ra igal boys. Ngania adal assign al malata aigal boss you make sure aiga selbol girulos pe en orior seguida adi mo last comment nga.
Yeah, range master, ma'am. There's 4. How many? Yeah, 4. Yeah, we have 4 range masters. Before they take the police officers to a firearms qualification in the range, they make sure the guns are prepped and ready and are in malfunction. Yeah, they make sure they work before they even take it out there. Yeah. After the range, they also clean them up. They usually check them before they even put them on their sides.
Chief Ari, Gomel, Sera Motel Mobulis and Marmailan Namotelal, Dora Bosem.
Tinagatak Trora Bosik.
Ako na sa Sayidi al issue I mean, ese OOT sa the Southern Hindi sel over experience. Tial dra bosem ak managalya imol le ada di kamle police adra malgyo. He was really traumatized after he did that. By a police officer. So tial comment trao kumulwa se kau na mo tala years sa police. Kau no. Kau Chief Ari.
27.
So 27 years without drawing the gun one time. Sige the statement. Sulong.
Sulang, I think we need to move on to the next agenda. We can always come back for another time if there's continue to be a pressing concern regarding the gun. So let's move on to the next on the area of jail facilities. Can you give a status of the new correction facility and maybe the current situation with the Coro jail? I understand there's a lot of challenges facing the current jailhouse in Coro. If you can just quickly give us your overview or your assessment of what needs to be done to address those challenges surrounding the jail.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one list of the new jail and its progression, but Division of Corrections Chief will give that briefing. The status of the Corora jail, there has been no update since 2017. When I first arrived here, I had a checklist that came from the Attorney General's office of a lawyer who went in there and categorized every deficiency that's in there, from toilets, wire, doors, locks, lighting, treatment, services, food. It's horrible. I went through that list, and as I'm walking over to speak with someone, I realized the cover sheet said 2017. That means nothing has been done in 7 years. Nothing. I've spent my own money out there because humane conditions. It's 90 outside, 80 humidity, and they're standing in solitary just sweating. I bought fans. We helped cool them down. There was a water leak. Nemo wanted water conservation. There's flooring all covered with water. They were urinating in bottles. We did what we could to fix the toilets, fix the showers, to give them treatment. I have some pictures here as well of the facility, the vulnerabilities. I don't want to mention that. Electrical hazards. Some items were fixed, but the bare minimum. The estimates we have from $11,000, $22,000, $30,000 went out as supplementals. But Valerie can explain, or the chief can explain, what was actually done to fix that situation. We have to treat them humanely as possible. It is not a jail. It's not even a doghouse. It is worse than that. There are so many deficiencies in that building, and we've had approximately 4 escapes in the last, I'll say, 12 months, possibly 13. It needs to be fixed, or the new jail needs to be fixed. To my understanding, doors and windows will help make the facility secure. Before I turn it over to the chief, I still want to send a team of my own personnel out there to do a penetration testing, as in getting out. So if certain people cannot get out of there, we can consider it safe, which means the guards can relax more and not rely on eyes, but use automation with guards, controls, CCC cameras, alarm systems, lock controls. I want that done first, but I don't want to interfere with the progress that's going on now. And I turn it over to the chief. Thank you.
Director amlo menciona yang itu algora model correction lang mana deteriorate why bring am la direct na bring leak sila utem even ma gagi the sewer system direct with oil askrada pusil memeta mong ayegi ya ko vira issue direct el escapes ngari amne construction ne constructora tele fence ngari sel watel open el modul tel front seguidia oil etc trigger na escape ta masra ado tagi ngari trigger mal gamat ma triga amis mendangal saamel mestrira ya gidele time el bol masarado el escape ta seguida route almost usokra obisra vice presidente usok almost serio mga seguida ok mong ngania ading ania time de selguk polo mesetial mo esel challenge diga aktir mo iso mira halt ora mo competition ngi al suko mong ania ora mo mel el seguida wal ora fence wal ora muqabil seguida mo madala tuang al fence ila mo la ora proposal amber ngun muskami tilagi da ngaria mabil ngan madami silwal ora update tial esel black al bus الآن مارس المو سبتمبر هذا مش سيجد الجيل دورس مع ويندو إن سلوا المو بلا سبتمبر سيجد تملا ملا إنستول الجيل بينغا ماشين ماتريال سل بلا البار يديك ميرا تايم ديليفري سيجد يعوق جيل السينيس PNQ triagi di awal wili tagi ngora pabir el mem wado meserngi sera last year ne sera November yagi engineers kabelment CIP ma director Brian agi silemon mora Philippines agi mnosiga klgadal mumdasing su'ad al marsi ora silbre del may mar direct liasui ma agi mnora blura laguna Philippines agi mnosel agi industrial area gimno mesagan maklol ngombayel ngarsil mrula asimildel ma direct ultra generators pombra aral ma raw lights يجيديا هذا كيم بيم ترايل جوك موسيقى يجيد بيبيلا دعال شبيد السمية بلاو المورتيال بس بلا البوس لسه بس بلا البوس موس بقى generators ما يجيد له بومبران بومبرا ماريا سلومو الغاسي ما تيال بيبوك تيال لا ديريك mo ngaral bringi mang tomom bel sigulate tel lay sigil bes bla albus sel do mes sel tagil gora crof sel do al medio sel gotel ngario generator sigil awal gora dirga ngara process ramo sewa bol gora mal ترتل لامو generator el bolosi gringar adra tigal engineers PNQ ma tial gombali dingwa dira gima update tilgira generator elmo yegi da agora amne segal mungi kada melmon belngara discussion tial tora bli albus mo al moria agora gera sigelonger
sula tibra update daso interest seneta salmum dengli sel el mal reasonable time frame tial al project from the construction el construction tial building tial facility el morsel tam el bodo opening el transition al galbus el mortegi del bes el facility ling blagatak tial problem ra che la waigel bamdung over 7 years el do saderngi agumda so amle decision el klasen gire del di i gut maklab es el che el seguidi amle wal solution tiagi del problem ra gor che من سؤال المساسة يجي الكناسيون غني أورا sense of priority يجي لو رولو بنجلا contractor ما CIP سأل مريء الممرك تيال الفاسيليتي o sisilta may gerokul alguk talentengil management ma rerela tora chela will be in place by the time the transitioner adalmong. Akpadengil kada sip edel most pe ay gil tokora wa generator el wal el reason kada wal the dilera project ning direk ngani baby infrastructure that's in the pipeline at the moment el lo bala en el marartial el drolela iray ma ang esar siya kumdas en master taurio ringi ma akumdas siya direk el girel mo maral the swed adap CIP giril madingay gaygi del toy mangiril ala na gaygi del al baby aurora infrastructure el mortial tora facility ratse seguida kumdas am piser nging sa pedal al expect may gel 80% ay gel problem el the face tial al current chela will be resolved. Gel gito ma simple sa pedal director please let's put more priority and more emphasis on the construction of the new jail and get it done and put up a workable timeline that's reasonable and of course we'll make sure that everything is in place for the transitioning of the jail and the prisoners to the new facility. You want to respond or Vice Chair
Before you respond, Director, maybe this is going to really encapsulate what the chairman's saying, and I actually have an add-on follow-up. Based on this schedule, the jail isn't going to be done for another year. Now, with the construction schedule being done, that doesn't necessarily mean you can move in the next day. My understanding is you need FFE, furnishings, etc., that are not even part of the bid or scope of work as of now. Having said that, do we actually have an idea? Obviously, it's not going to be 2024, but is it going to be 2025 sometime? Is it going to be 2026? And then, now here's my question. Your chief just mentioned that in the last escapes, he knows exactly where the prisoners escaped out of. Jumped on a roof, went over the vice president's office, and escaped that way. If this is a known escape area and it's happened multiple times, couldn't we come up with a quick fix for now? I'll let you both figure out who's going to answer.
Yes, Senator. Those vulnerabilities I've taken pictures of. I have estimates. It's the fencing that's missing on the roof. Now everyone knows that's $30,000. They don't have these items. They have to ship them in. I've been patiently waiting for the Army Corps of Engineers to bring some with us. All my military partners. If anyone has it, they're doing construction. They're doing construction at the kennels right now to finish the fencing. I can go there and persuade them. However, the jail production timeline, all I can do is stomp my feet. That is out of my control. We can use some of the furniture and matting and the decrepit things we have at the old jail and do a transition of 30, 60, 90% and transition them in. It'll take more manpower from us, but at least we can start moving those facilities over. So we don't have that plan yet because this is 7 years now. I haven't been here for one, and this is a pain. But I think it'll be fixed when it's in my proposal this year, and it comes across your desk for more money. That's all I can do at the meantime, but the chief and I will plan how we're going to transition to that and how we can get to emphasis on this. Thank you, Senator.
Director, for the next 2 years, give us recommendation what can we do to help you here for the next 2 years. So there will be no prisoner escape. give us your plan how to stop the prisoner to escape. Are there leaks roof that need to cover up with cement or asphalt or whatever we can, or we just put a tent on top of it so there will be no water to go in? Those are what the jail room for the ladies, what you need to improve. That's for the next 2 years. The way I look at the new facilities will not be finished for the next 2 years. Give us something that you want us, write it to the chairman of the committee. So we will, if you cannot ask the vice president and president, we'll help you to ask them to help you. So we don't have to face another jailbird to run away. Yeah. And also the food, are they eating well? Are they still eating sardines and noodles, or you have changed their meal to meet the required meal? Also the custody room, what do you want them to improve there? Do you need a toilet there, or just you need a bucket? And things that need to help you, at least improve it for the next 2 years. Help us to understand so we can do something to help you.
Thank you, Senator. We have multiple estimates. We should have the 2-year plan, as you said. So the budget being what it is, we're very limited. We'll fix the vulnerabilities we have now, but I also have a future vision of maybe victims of crime when they need a safe place, or immigrations that we're picking up when we expand or anti-human trafficking and we're collecting people, or safety for children. So the facility is not just going to be closed down. We'll fix it in a way that can be used for multi-purpose while we transition to the new jail. And we'll get that list as soon as possible to you, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Alelboso ginoy po kay.
So, Chairman, it's been a long day. My question is going to go to the chief first, then come back to you. Kada batanya kung larinya sel time ra gimko tulmil tagi loko rura jail visit. So newan ra ko tul ko ra karmama safety ra officers lo riore may equipment tel mo spell o mru lo reri. Kada mle batanya paseng mle na songos to kangal sa sel ay required. Din dire kaldi ka udude dem ko ra diuliger maseng ngarinya ko ra planner kamil improve ay equipment tel mo safer bulis. Sila ko ra ko telger kom la improve ay safety equipment ra bulis sa ingel sa murinya rayo tang ay dongul lo spell protector tirel against tactical inmates. Siya ko telger.
Almasol makmalasun mo ngiringi. Ngara equipment sa kamera. Ding jagil ndal tuasing mal sa amlo spell sa kumurnya ko ra ligrab lay. Maria ora sil gimobang sige daon ra ora protection ko ma'am. Direct Maria arm gimobang sa arm ding bilakal gusto dang gero spe ako sa sil. Tingaring sel time ko mo Spain. Dia ka ora beton na kita gira direct lomis ko sa gimorang mo. Mori kita ma'am mong yang ara ang direct ora weapons ko ma'am gimo label ora Gaya lagi kita ko amul yara ayutur.
Jam sulang ale kodog der segi deleng wana first ra nya safety gamilot. Sa kluto tela la ongerung dire kal dekal sel beto ko that so gire delo re lo ngela gal different tel blue lo selil belaw. Liga nga dire kal ngani udu del blue selu kala chensa udu dire ang civil marapes equipment ko ktone itegel mergi demang lakal malo sa segi del kora working relations lo ngela baby rablu leng dia ka doru la udu del wang par makada relay ay gid baby kan 3 for partnership lo kora upgrade ay gigid equipment na kami malsab ele ilakal malo sa gid o ngarul kri kadi naringal buigel nosmer sila achil jakal ngal toltob daw do masang gel me gotle mnoria isel kumasang me dehydrate bisa lagi me ko agi dire kal ko amne donate taral me donate kwa dul tob daw sham kumase as long el ngarinya wan el ko water gel dispenser or one el blilaral mil ngar al sel ngal kas studi mil prevent ringel amal simple dim leral meng math ay ko komti ke practice alu benti ngarinya ko raral mil ngar al sel kas studi seb ela adal melim ringi melakal bolse
ay siya mama every day mo murutul ay tasko kom stri na kalir may miliran every day jangan melo leng siya dia ka selula sin secure sila ya gigi del ngora Bible domination sub edel kmedel mosi ning ay kan naringa before and direct di mitamal ra sila ning sel lang ititra adel mosing ani trial mel ngora o digil magi sel mel end up ngari mitamal ra sila game magi tal labaral ma kakaliren mo nga bekel sel ki morung imel mutela
waisa se so un magi yulger niya sila gime ko niya yimal maului lais kuma se celebrate simning jalbui amral sil del dia ka tele laral ma mangil dil ngar al sil mamla de sobak masyal dil ngar nya wan el baral laral ma al sil sei tinga dal tamalla ad ma dal sebel mul tomli dil sebel lo sebel ak ngar nya ulugo min dehydrate ringel bui ke sel dorrengas en ngulel diulo ni taral sa ya dio dong sam adra blu magi bring up el tang segi de ral mamle ula go del lel lemne dehydrate tra el telolel or de doli marrom me kada dehydrate sa un magim ni bring up ringak mas at least el bornya ko some sort of ral mel ngal sel tial kalbus lo sobelang klangan ngay ma ablel ma sanga bulis ra ko letiang aklol pasyo maybe lam no de kal sebel mo mesang ngay endil nga nga ral mel ngilel ming amne sebel ko orgadin matuta ko mo mesang cycle so sa dimne precautions el gibil bilti ileng kadam lo concern sa gid masing altang le dehydrate dem le el tela le mo studi alol di hindi ka other wrong si edim la kam saral sa gid el simple el uldaso alasta for you director it's funny I was watching YouTube last night watching the different prison systems in the US, in the Philippines, and in Japan, those 3 countries. And you can get a really clear view on how things work in this jail. The American system is becoming more electronized because they have money. They can do all those things. They're printing money. You go to the Philippines, it's a different story. When you get in jail, the warden is he's going to put you in jail, lock. Whoever in control of the jail is the people in jail, the inmates. And there's a structure in there that they've come up with. And it's cost effective. But the living standards and the human rights, it's all violated. But it's their jail, it's their country, they can do whatever they want. You go to Japan, it's a different story. You should see Japan's how they run their jail system. Because it's a system that's going to correct the inmate. After he leaves, he's probably know what he learned from it. Because they are responsible, the inmate is responsible for himself. And there's rules and regulations that just makes them responsible. They even move in line. They don't speak. So I think for Palau as an independent country, we need to see different things and try to use our mind and create our own policy that's fit for Palau, because we're getting money from the United States. But we have minds that we can create our own policy that fits the island. So I think we need to look at those 3 things and try to see how best, what best works for Palau and how Palauans think and how they can control themselves without using too much money. Because when you're mentioning this human rights here, when I look at the Philippine YouTube, I'm like, man, they're living in a hotel here. In the Philippines, 200 people living in a space that's just stacked on each other. So that's just what I'm saying. You know, it's something we need to look at, make the comparisons, and then make the decision on how moving forward, because we don't print money. And funding is one of the big issue here, because we don't have that much resources. So we need to be creative in what we're trying to do and building the infrastructure for that. So thank you for the opportunity, if you can advise.
Did you want to respond to that? Gabong, Senator Song.
So the chair, director, I'm not sure if this is still happening under your watch, but there's a practice of arresting officers coming in with somebody and then put him in jail, and then without processing the papers, either they're going to charge them or not, and then they would say, they go to the jail and says, please wait for the arresting officers to take you out. Have they been arrested and they have or are they just so-called under the 24-hour? Because I do have an experience with, because the Department of Corrections is different from Guam Police Department. So when the police actually bring you to the corrections, if they've already processed your arresting papers, so they get to admit you. Yeah? The practice, and I'm not sure if it's still happening, and hopefully you can address this, is they bring them to jail, and they just choose not to charge them, and they'll say, you wait for the shift of the person that arrested you to come and take you out. What's that? And can you please, I don't know if that's under your SOP or if that's a standard process. If it's still happening, please correct that, because I don't think it should work that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. There is an SOP. We have our guidelines. But I think the confusion is when you pick up an individual and you detain them. That is not throwing them in jail. We don't have the rights to do that. Depending on the severity of the case, other officers supporting us, going from misdemeanor, felony to drug, there's different processes involved. There was even one that was put in jail because every time there's a payday weekend, she gets drunk. She's almost there every 2 weeks, and she starts yelling all night until she sobers up, and then we let her go. There's a different procedure for that. But as far as the accusations you're making, we have the Office of Professional Standards. We need to report things like that, because that will not be tolerated.
Yes, Director. If you're just putting people to sober up, I don't think that's what you should be doing. If somebody is having an alcoholic problem, then send them to behavioral health. When you bring somebody to jail, they're supposed to be there to wait for a judge to actually say, look, you've done this, I'm going to release you or not. You don't just put people in jail and then come the next day and say, okay, you can go. What did I do for you to put me in there? Either you charge them or you don't. You release them and they go home.
We do not put people in there specifically just to detox. We put people in there that are being a threat, that are very violent, and are a threat to others. So
charge them.
We do.
No, you don't. I know an experience, and that's the reason why I'm asking you this. If it's still happening under your watch, I want it to stop.
I have no idea that it happened.
Then maybe you're not talking to your directors or chiefs enough.
I have not any idea of this happening at all.
I'm talking about this, Director, and then some of your people are nodding their head. This is happening right now. If you don't know if it's happening under your watch, then I'm sorry.
Then I am not incompetent. However, I'm trying to tell you that
I never said you're incompetent.
If I don't know what's not going on,
then you probably should have more regular meetings with your personnel.
I just want to give him an answer, then you may respond. We have the Office of Professional Standards, which I'm heavily into, and we're still establishing at the Ministry of Justice. It's above my level. I want anyone that's under any scrutiny, such as accusations, to be held accountable. I do not tolerate it. I take it personal, and if someone has misconduct off duty that's civil, I want to know about it. I want that handled before it becomes criminal activity. But the chief can explain the detoxification. I call it the D-cell. There's different terms over here. Chief Ricky can explain.
Senator, halapok table was mo di. Sel one sel arrestra Ngayon charge sige al sila 24 hours. Al sumangalak kasi yung agim lamo malmalala. Mang between sa ira siya 24 hours sige man kamo ni gate lo banggel may arresting officer. Leng ayal gay sa ngaringgel el tragay silgir el follow up tel gay all the way mall. Mo ya submission lagi mo ichi. Dahil sila trabulis li katiin el pick up sil guys. Mang abibira timing agiblo all gol kwasya mo odming badil at telalbung yung mo maniga 24 hours ra.
Chairman, if I may, au ulam even malsuko mo mereka shifter kau, ikana arrest ra ad ngire melkay al process ra ba bilngin. Hindi kasi mga adan mo osmri, el dirga kong process ringi. Sira mo turtiar ang kaya kau accept ringi as a department ra chief direction so gangar ba bilngin. Gang rakay singing gang violent tangarang klere kadingul mette yung osmil labentra bebirara without knowing exactly what happened.
Okay, dia kang adal mea
Nakabayolin to sem change til al practice lendia kal ginem loisi.
Senator nekal sila adal el telal may gimlula bingela gimot bidi mulala.
Church ngira disorderly conduct. Yabol guhugeng mora court. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Hindi ka morre ka ringil summer, release ringi. Tell the jail is not for people to get sober and you release them. Yes, well, that's exactly what's been happening, and I'm hope it's not continue under you watch. You either charge them for disorderly conduct, they go to court, because when they put them without the papers, the people at jail don't know. Is this guy a violent person? What kind of crime did he commit? And they're putting them all together. So you can't just put somebody that because they're drunk that you're putting them in there. Holding them that, oh, you have 24 hours to charge them. Even if your shift is almost over, you have to sit down and do the paperwork, give it to the Department of Corrections and says, look, here's the paper for this guy. Tomorrow you bring him to court and let's charge him. Al sukumende ke chief engiri release ra. Limlang mo practice ra kami tokol ra rubakrir ngana kasebe mo tabada. Tiang ngara lomru la ngaka malokor tel kumda singire del chance ay kaigi del teletal mo professional.
Ngomong senator endagi mo role wise say. Agi role tirak lala. Mal sukuma ava me el telaoling dakal sopa am lo role mo la dakal so ama adal dinaga ngaya al intaksi rele ki mo dorngi. Until such time ang sober, mumda amain din niya mo clear, niya mo sabiil sa aming mga statement rin. Hindi ka lang, dasi, nga niya sa mahapin. Nga niya bila time ito, di ka sa langil sober, ito, release rin. Mungmuriya ako hapin na, mag-imal make sure. Ya, ala sober, ya sila 24 hours ngayon na pasisabi ng charge rin ulagay rin ako nas kasi
point na nga I'm sorry chair point na nga kasi gablam ngul mira abla bulis you should know what charges you're going to charge that person. If you don't know, then you release them. Nduringi kasi bumdura adrabli mebelot takaw. You either choose to charge or you don't charge. There's no other way. I think I deserve to get an answer on this, and I demand that you, because this is the practice. I know it is a practice. He's trying to explain what you guys have been doing. Obviously you don't know about it.
I will let my chief speak on that behalf. I just want to clarify that someone who's drunk and disorderly and a threat to others, they're put in a jail while they're being processed and will be released as drunk and disorderly conduct. There are charges, and that's what I was getting to as far as the D cell, where they can detax, where they can be released on their own and are not a threat. However, Chief Jefferson can finish up on that.
Sulang Senator Walwilger. Wajal ulo at sibra adiosing diak ngara diosim di process ra patrol ngarala ndakal sabi malataging la adal intoxicated. Next thing you know, ang aigal tiging la mohan tergara al sela gargaril lang defense ringi mok mula siya nga kamle at tela ole. Sa igit niya mo talmalawrela bulis ringi. Mukul dia kada tiada kal safekeeping lay. Hindi nga rin niya adal me tela ole kadungul me kasi ereng abul madarili ringi. Natal giba mo problem lagi release ringin ba. Morablil and ruli abu malmu teklol. So again, klugu kang mo problem rakama marbulis mong adal gimu say mogori DNC disorderly conduct.
Kasi hindi ka adal church ngi because ng LTL.
Agingul mo ora kadira che ekmul asem bukoringil under DNC. Ya klugu ra silgo tembre del time na mo dia kabula romrang kalas share de lo ringi. Segi dia practice la tal gibom itu terngi ra kari la ul magi malmal remurtra teleti lagi dulu. I hope ng watal gibel
Nasil koram tabersel garila senator sang pa kumdaseng laangan niya radal alit sila klaseng kom dimle o am arrester tiril dimna ka charge ser tire o motung to trir ka studi ya bon next day kom release ser tira kom nasa seng laangan niya guys before mle happen lumay siya lubeng
Akum da se cheren til ay gide maybe la akuk tiklaw madangir tirga mandingun me engul mo nge merong kasi ere maklu ge me kutto badaw I don't know akum da sa kasi process ada when you actually put somebody there already process ragay sirngi mche engul mom ire se ndi ka dong okol process ragay maklu ge chukum manda ke kamil mo mande e mora court Aiga normal process kasi anytime lobla mo tinga adra chel ng armory cling kana arrest mo gina mo court ra next day ya court ta decide kasi ka release ka undia el base ravel ka undia kom church ra ade mo kom release ngi emduk masya kamora court ro ingarang le kami ada kalam til release ra ada sumo kom la church ngi dital church as release ra
Pero sa kada mutal mo look into it kung nasan talibal lang outsider cell normal procedure arrest ma detain ra adal nga custody ra police dia kangol al girela to karache lama ada por cell last al item bigyan Director Lavita, sorry. I think we have exhausted our questions for regarding the jail and those other matters regarding correction facilities. So let's move on to the last item on the agenda. That's for other matters. I think we covered majority of what the committee was concerned about, basically on the police job classification, internal police corruption and drug abuse. We've touched on that. Officers training and development and budgetary issue. So I think for this last item in our agenda, we wanted to hear from you what you need as far as addressing all these problems that we discussed under those different agenda items. If there's a timeline that we can expect a plan or a strategy or an assessment from you as a director and your chiefs for the solution or a remedy to all these problems. I think that's what we want to hear from you, among other questions that might be arise from the members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I recommend is that we go back to the proposal for the 2024 budget that we all spent so much time on. I don't want to revisit that. Inflation has changed slightly this year. However, I think all the work is already done by division. Now, if we can speak by division with the current organization, we can determine what we need for social workers at the DJJ. Everything is in there already. So I can give that to you per email. We can drop it off at your office, but we can set up a discussion so we can break it down. As I said before, I've only submitted the things that we need and not the things that we want. There's a big difference there. We want new cars. We want new everything, new guns. However, we just want to replace the problems that we have so we get some longevity in use and put it to where we need it for the infirmary, for the jail, the quick fixes. That's already in our last budget plan. So if we could just review that again with a second set of eyes to see maybe there is something we missed that could help us out even better. Sulang.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you perhaps to consult with your supervisors, the minister, and of course the president, for you guys to sort of like align your priorities with the higher ups and have them be the one to submit all your requests, whether it's through a budget request or any other form of a legislation that will help you guys get what you need to get the task done. I think that's what I would ask. Any question, other matters?
Director, I want to thank you for your time here today. You've explained a lot of things that makes us more confident and trusting of our bureau, and we appreciate all the directors and the police officers and all the staff work hard, especially Valerie. She's working very hard. Thank you, Val. I want to bring this up about I'm very concerned with the pay for the officers. And you know, we're losing many officers to without migration. So we think that you should have a classification and job description and qualifications. And I hope the justifications and the job descriptions are justified by the level of pay, because we don't want to overpay and we don't want to underpay. We want to make sure the officers are and the staff are paid fairly, but we also need to make sure that the money that the Republic pays also has a return, fair return for the people and the public. So I just want to put that concern to you, because we are expecting a pay scale change and qualification changes, and also so I want to make sure you have that level of understanding. So when your request comes, we do not ask too many questions and why is this and why is that, and then the performance will be on the level at where we expect it. So the problems and the expectations are not mismatched. They'll be fairly covered. Thank you. That's my comment. Thank you, Valerie, and all the directors. All chiefs. One director and chiefs.
President, level oralas te pesa mo kadimo sa mapa. Kapo tabalwal.
Sorry, Chair. Director, let me first thank you for being patient and staying with us, Trigal Chiefs. Couple of things I want to stress up. Let me first thank you for being in Palau. I know you have extensive resume, And you also mentioned that you sacrificed a lot of things. You could be getting paid a lot of money being in Palau. But I want to make this clear. I hope you don't feel that we are beholden to you to come back to Palau, and somehow because of that, we need to submit to you and just say yes to what you're suggesting. We want to make sure that we hold our people accountable. Every director is accountable, and they return the respect to the Palauans. That I want to emphasize. Second thing that you mentioned, you said you believe in public trust. And I think that's the issue of the day. When you have a director that to your right hand you have the president, and to your left hand you have the vice president, and somehow you don't get in sync, and you have all of these issues at the Bureau of Public Safety, it doesn't speak well to the leadership. And unless that leadership gets squared away, anybody below the line, we cannot speak about public trust. And I think we need to work with that, build the public trust. That's essential. The third thing, you said, I am not the one solution. You did say that. I trust that's the right thing to say. It doesn't look good when you return, you have the deputy resign, and officers who resign, they're gone. But I hope from this day on, you build a team. Everybody has ownership, and you make that team, and that team become especially transparent to everyone in Palau. When the team is there, we know about it. When the team is being built, they talk about it, and we find out. That is, I hope we can build on that team. The fourth point, 19 resignations, and you say officers' pay is incentive. Let me say, people respond to certain things because it's a calling. Teachers, officers. I know a student who graduated from Emmaus Betania, could have gone to PCC, went to Police Academy. He's an officer and it's outstanding because it's a calling. And you need to build the reputation of officers that speak the very things that we want to aspire to. And I hope that it takes more than money to bring people in. It takes reputation. And I think we need that. And then my last point, you said you have US certified and you have Palau certified. I'm going to say this. I will take all the Palau certified any time of the day, till the day I die. These are our people. They've been here and they'll be with us. And I hope you give them the respect that they deserve, regardless of the many things you say, US this and US that, Palau this and Palau that. I want that to be very fair too, because these are the people who've been here. They've done the job, and they'll be here when you leave. And I want to make sure that all our officers know that we are proud of them, wherever they are and who they are, because they are ours. I want to emphasize that because I don't want to make up a sense that somehow we are far behind in US standards. We are who we are. We are proud of that. I want to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tabalwal, for that wonderful insight. Aledil Bongkang Tim Sawa, 2 minutes at the most.
1 minute. Director Levitz, Mavaleri Marbekal Chief sa Aktimo Osei Eikel Tikingel Senator Tabalwal. Congratulate Director Gumiu, and I'm sure luaseng ilanga mal qualified bato halo ngel base raurel ma experience ngei matial babil ngel resume ngel mle mal bato ka ablag at mok. Dire kalso aklo ay sa luase give him a credit mal recognize our role chiefs ra under ngik mula sa mal highly qualified. Dire kal muru raurer under ablabulis. But Mr. Levitz, I recognize that the points that you mentioned about your chiefs and that you highly recommend them as qualified people under you. And but due to the the most of the interviews and questionnaires that have been appeared on your part with integrity and respect and honor to the country and the people that we working with, especially with you as well, is based on the same question with the integrity and the honesty of the university and your qualifications that you were to. Back to Senator Cuarte question, yeah. And I think it will be, with the Congress and the committee, I think it'll be honestly be performing to the point of that you need to give us a copy of your schooling certification, right? And I think that will kind of eliminate most of the issues and questionnaires, especially based on the honesty and the integrity within the police force and the Republic of Palau. And I think that will quite sum up most of the issues. But when that is not presented, you still have a lingering questions on the integrity and honesty to the workforce that's been given to you to lead. And with that, respectfully, I applaud and appreciate that your presence is here with Palau helping us, and thank you very much.
Anda kailangan ka Presidente, kagidali Vice Chair, whip sa mo, close our meeting.
Senators, I'm just glad you're all here to listen. We can present budget reports, metrics, we can give that to you all day long, but until we have dialogue with each other, we can't stress the importance. I was given the task of coming here, presenting it to you. I was given time to come back, but all I have to do is go back to October, give you our plan, and we discuss from there and not reinvent the wheel. But thank you for listening to us and taking the time. Thank you all.
Okay, before I let our Vice Chair make the final closing remarks and statements, I just want to thank you for your patience. I know I promised you it's going to be at least 2 hours, but we've gone 4 hours already. But I think a lot of what we discussed are very important for all the senators, for them to be able to make sound decisions for the Republic on the area of public safety. So with that said, I thank you again for your patience. And I now give the floor to our Vice Chair to close the meeting with his final remarks.
Madam Saule, Chairman, Director Levitt, did you want to offer any closing statements before I close it? Or any of your chiefs want to say something?
This is how I end all my statements. Sulang.
Okay. Director Levitt and all of your chiefs, I just want to close by saying when the Senate says we're going to have a 2-hour hearing, we're very conservative when we make those statements. We usually go long, so be prepared next time. I know there are a lot of, and I just kind of want to recap. I jotted down some notes. In the beginning, you mentioned your challenges with hiring. If you have a staffing plan on how you plan to achieve that shortfall, especially in different areas. I know talked about juveniles and as well as CID, or Transnational Crime Unit, was short. Another one I jotted down was your transition plan for the new jail and what are the shortfalls in that in terms of what's required to actually make that facility an operational facility. And closely tied to that would be what are the immediate temporary fixes to make the Karora jail a little bit more functional that'll carry us at least 2 years. And I know we've talked about budget shortfalls, and that's something we need to come back to you and look at, maybe in a separate meeting. And you spoke about your budget, but not in detail, but that's something we probably need to look at together in detail. I know Senator Basilius wanted some kind of clarity on those 7 steps before you actually, a police officer draws their weapon. How do you de-escalate a situation before that becomes an unfortunate drawing of the weapon takes place? And then lastly, I just wanted to thank all the men and women in blue for their service to our country. And I want to thank you, the chiefs, and the other officers that were here. And thank you, Director Levitt. And looking forward to spend more time with you again in the near future to take care of our Ministry of Justice. Thank you so much.